What's going on? 10 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Two big extensions in the NFL yesterday and one happening early this morning. We'll start with yesterday. The 49ers signing linebacker Fred Warner to a new deal. 3 years, $63 million contract extension that includes $56 million in guaranteed money, making him the NFL's highest paid linebacker. And it marks the second time in his 7-year career that he has landed a contract that awards him the highest paid linebacker contract. Then to this morning, the Bears guard Joe Thuney signing a 2-year extension worth $35 million. If Thuney plays out the rest of his current deal, he will have made more money than any other guard in NFL history. Western Conference Finals get started tonight between the Thunder and the Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 7:30. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone. Hope everybody is staying dry and safe on another rainy morning. Glad to have you with us. Another day without Buck Rising, just the way we like it. I'm Lucas Panzica alongside Robert Walsh with you until 1 o'clock, as we just heard from Titans head coach Brian Callahan. More media availability to come. Later today at 11:15, we'll hear from some Titans veterans, including, it sounds like, new Titans left tackle, Dan Moore Jr., the former Pittsburgh Steeler, set to meet with the Titans media for the first time since signing a big deal in NFL free agency. Really the biggest deal that the Titans handed out in that portion of the offseason program. This portion of the offseason program is phase 2. As that wraps up, they'll turn their attention to OTAs next week, and you just heard the head coach expressing some excitement for being able to actually have some offense versus defense drills next week and get a little more tangible work in, as really the discussion for today is, unsurprisingly, about Cam Ward and what the Titans are doing to try to get him up to speed, and also some really interesting things that Brian Callahan mentioned about the leadership on this team, or maybe the lack thereof last season. Now, he did not say that part of it. He did not say that this was a fractured locker room that lacked leadership, that was something that was a big issue for them in 2024. But he didn't really have to. It felt like Brian Callahan's answer about leadership and the different things they're trying to do and toy with to manufacture some of that, it leans into the idea that they were pretty void of that last season. And we'll hear the head coach again on that coming up later on in the show. But I did think that was interesting. And the Titans are going to need that from Cam Ward as he comes into this team. But right now, they're just trying to get him up to speed on the offense. And he was asked about how the reps are being split at the moment between Will Levis and number 1 overall pick Cam Ward, and pretty evenly, which is standard this time of year, according to the Titans head coach. But this was Brian Callahan on just trying to get Cam Ward up to speed before he can get into that phase of actually competing for the starting quarterback position.
It's something that we've really put a lot of work into. What I mean by that is it's an emphasis for us as well. Just like we emphasize trying to eliminate those negative plays and our execution, there is a leadership emphasis. And part of the reason I did what I did with our dividing our team up into teams is now they're all accountable to each other on that team. There's a leadership that starts to grow because now each team has a captain.
That's my fault.
You're good. That's Brian Callahan talking about the leadership aspect. Interesting stuff there from the head coach. We'll hear from him again at noon. This is Brian Callahan on Cam Ward and how he's splitting reps currently in the offseason program.
Yeah, I think there's so much work to be done between now and then, particularly for him. So many things that you have to learn as a young quarterback. So I don't get too far down that road personally with him. We're focused on the next day, really, at this point. Trying to get him up to speed as fast as possible and get him ready so he can go compete for a job. And that's ultimately where it all lands right now. So not going to make too many proclamations about September here in May. So feel good about where we're at and the work he's put in, and we'll get there when we get there.
Okay, so Cam Ward, splitting reps evenly with Will Levis at the moment, just trying to get a grasp of the offense, trying to get his bearings, his feet under him at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park before we turn our attention to OTAs, which will be the next phase of the offseason program. Training camp will be here before we know it, coming up this fall. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Is there a certain threshold or kind of barometer of time in the calendar where you expect the Titans, or you want to hear the Titans tell you that Cam Ward is definitively the starting quarterback for 2025? We know he's going to be. There's too much on the line for Brian Callahan, for the Titans to continue trying this out with Will Levis. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when, right? That they'll announce that Cam Ward is the starter, that they'll go into drills and practice with Cam Ward taking reps with the ones. But I am curious as to when that's going to be, because every team handles that a little bit differently, right? If you're the Chicago Bears last year and Matt Eberflus talking to media, I mean, basically 5 minutes after Caleb Williams is drafted, he makes no bones about it. Now Caleb Williams is the starter. I mean, why put on this guise of a competition between Caleb Williams and who was the Bears' backup? Tyson Bagent last year? Why even pretend, right? And I don't think Brian Callahan is pretending, but he's just not taking that step yet. He's allowing Cam Ward to get his bearings before crossing that threshold. We're also live on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. You can jump in on the F&M Bank chat where folks are filing in. So is there a kind of a mark in the calendar, Robert, where if you put yourself in the shoes of a Titans fan, you're saying, okay, I want you to acknowledge that Cam Ward is a starting quarterback by this point?
Yeah, sure. When it gets into August, when we're going into playing preseason games, you'll know. You'll know by the reps. You'll know when Cam Ward jots out there with the starters that he's the starter. But I do think there's some benefit in going through the rigmarole of compete for this job. Even though you're selected number 1 overall, we know you're going to start. We hope that you're going to be a franchise quarterback. But I don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of competition to start off with. Obviously, Will Levis, if Will Levis is starting week 1, something disastrously, horrendously wrong has happened. But putting Cam into that mindset of you need to go in here and you need to take his job. You need to beat these other guys out and prove that you can do that. And we all know that he can, but I think there's benefit in doing that, in doing that process. Just like when your parents would tell you to do something, go get me that wrench, and you bring your dad the wrong wrench. He could have went and grabbed the right wrench, but there's something in that process of teaching you what wrench he wanted. You know what I mean? Like I think that's something good that they're doing by not just saying, yep, he's a starter. He's going to get 100% of the reps. I don't mind that this early into the season.
My version of that is my mom yelling downstairs for me to come up and turn the light in my room off, even though she was upstairs.
Oh, my.
She's right there, and it used to drive me insane. Why didn't you just turn it off? You're right there, but it was just about the message. No, you have to get your butt up off the couch, walk up the stairs to your room, and turn the light off.
I used to get those all the time where they'd be like, Robbie, come down here. What? And you're like, what? No. What? You have to walk all the way down there. Please, you could have just texted me. You could have just texted me what you needed. What do you want for dinner tonight? I walked all the way down here for you to ask me what I want for dinner tonight, only for you to tell me you don't give a damn what I want.
Or the classic, which everybody has experienced. Lucas, go get your sister. Go get your sister. It's time for dinner. And then just yell her name up the stairs. Well, I could have done that. Well, why didn't you? I'm sure everybody has gone through that at one point or another. I was probably a nightmare to deal with. I'm sure nothing compared to you, though. I can't even imagine how much of a demon child you were running around your household.
Listen, I am the Walsh's shiniest turd. I am, compared to my brothers, compared to my uncles, everyone else in the family, anything I do is pedestrian. Because when I was a little kid, I was scared of getting my ass tore up. I didn't want to go out there and make my daddy mad so then he could jerk a knot in my britches. You know what I mean? I had one of them dads with them strong old man hands that like he didn't look strong. My dad's shaped like a daggum pear. But like if he touched you, you could feel his old man strength. I'm scared to death of that old man strength.
As soon as he grabbed you by the scruff of your neck, it was over.
Oh no, it was your shirt. It was your shirt, and he'd pick you up, hold you like a daggum gunt wrench, and just carry you around.
I'm picturing him holding you up like you do when a cat is bad, and you grab a cat by
100%
the scruff of the back of its neck. And
I was always wearing overalls as a kid, so he'd grab me by my two back overall straps and carry me like a daggum briefcase.
Okay, so all that to say, yeah. it's not necessarily a guise of a quarterback competition, but more than anything, just you got to walk the steps to the starting quarterback spot, right? Instead of just being handed it. So Cam Ward's going to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. What I hope doesn't happen is we get into training camp and we do the thing Urban Meyer did with Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew, right? That, oh, no, it's a flat-out competition, splitting reps 50-50. Let's not waste reps for Cam Ward by splitting them 50-50 in training camp. So I don't think that's going to happen. There's too much on the line for this season. Cam Ward at this point is just getting his feet under him and getting up to speed in the offense. So some interesting stuff there from Brian Callahan, whether it was talking about the offensive line, what they're going to need out of Dan Moore Jr. J.C. Latham, by the way, getting down to the proper weight as he kicks over to the right side. Brian Callahan saying that he was a little bit heavy for the position by the end of last year, something they discussed with him in exit meetings, and it's something that J.C. Latham worked on and, to his credit, achieved from a pure weight perspective coming into the offseason program. Because as much as we talk about Cam Ward being thrown into the fire week one against that Broncos defense, this offensive line is going to be thrown into the fire week one against that defense. And the expectation level is going to be higher for this offensive line. Because Cam Ward, he's not, I mean, help me out, Robert. What is the opposite of equity? If you're building equity with someone and you're kind of building that good grace, what is the opposite of that?
I wish you would have stalled a little bit longer so I could have Googled quicker.
I want to know the proper Oxford
inequity.
Inequity. Okay, well, we probably could have come up with that. So whatever that is, the Titans offensive line has built up a lot of inequity right now with the fan base. So the standard is going to be higher for them in week one against the Broncos than it's going to be for Cam Ward. There will be some level of understanding of grace for Cam Ward that that's his first NFL start in one of the toughest environments to play in the NFL against one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the NFL from the 2024 season that only added to that in the NFL draft. Yet, it's a new starting five, right? Some parts and pieces that carry over. But if you think about it, only two players from last year's starting five on the offensive line, if healthy, will be starting in their respective position that they played last year in week one. Peter Skoronski at left guard, Lloyd Cushenberry at center, if he's healthy. J.C. Latham now at right tackle, Dan Moore Jr., a new face there, Kevin Zeitler, a new face at right guard. That's not to say that we should couch expectations. No. Bill Callahan is this team's offensive line coach. At this point, they've got players that were either drafted highly or have played at a high level in this league before for the most part, or are on hefty contracts like Dan Moore Jr. The expectation is and should be high in week one for the Titans offensive line. But, man, that's going to be a tough thing to achieve, to gel and come together in a way that looks like an average, just an average offensive line in the NFL on the road week one against that defense.
We're going to make a pact right now. Me, you, the listeners in their cars, the F&M Bank chat. We are not going to tell Buck about this equity inequity situation. I do not want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with his laughter. If he gave a darn about this show, he'd know because he'd probably be listening right now, but he's not. So we're going to make a pact. We're not going to bring up this equity inequity situation.
There is not a chance in hell that Buck would have been able to come up with the word inequity.
I don't believe that. The dude who puts most in front of everything, who most needs to start on the, you could just say who needs to start on the Titans defense. That guy knows the word inequity.
Word economy, though, not a strength of Bucks. 615-737-1045. When we come back, we've got headlines because owners' meetings are taking place in Minneapolis and some important things are being voted on. We'll talk about it next.
Two Rivers Ford announces employee pricing for everyone. Every tradesman, every dad, every rising star. You pay what we pay. Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned. American made.
It's time for NFL headlines with Lucas Panzica.
The king of the pregnant pause, Robert Walsh. Owners' meetings are happening in Minneapolis, and we've touched on some of these topics. We certainly did yesterday, especially the idea of flag football, but we have an update, although it has not officially been voted on, not that I have seen. But before we do that, quickly, Robert, we got the equity inequity discussion wrong. When I asked you what the opposite of equity is when talking about the lack of equity, the opposite of equity that the Titans offensive line has built with this fan base over the years, you said inequity, which technically you're right, but that is using the word equity in terms of imbalance or inequality. I'm talking about equity from an accounting sense, which the opposite of that would be liabilities. So the Titans offensive line has built up a lot of liability, a lack of grace.
Who sent you this?
It did Google.
No, it wasn't.
No, I did some research.
Someone texted you.
I had like 6 minutes to do research.
Someone texted you. There's no way that you did that amount of research.
Amount of research?
It's actually liabilities. Stop it.
Very quick Google. Just wanted to make sure we had our bases covered for the sake of accuracy. So flag football, we're not going to do another draft, although I feel like we could. We're not going to do another flag football draft. But
we could do defense.
We could do defense. But to be honest, the players that we'd be drafting, the Micah Parsons and Pat Surtains of the world that we would be drafting in a defensive draft to represent the United States at the 2028 Olympics in flag football, the Olympics that will be held in Los Angeles, I'm starting to think that most of those players are just not going to be the ones that NFL teams are sending to play flag football. Now, a vote is happening today. If it has not happened yet, we don't know that it has, to allow NFL players to participate in flag football at the 2028 Olympics. And reportedly, according to ESPN, it is expected to pass. Of course, you need 24 of 32 NFL owners to vote yes in order for it to pass. And this was Ian Rappaport of NFL Network on some of the stipulations that will be behind allowing NFL players to participate in the 2028 Olympics.
Yeah, that really does seem like the way this is going. That seems like the momentum toward getting this thing done, getting NFL players to participate in the Olympics, playing flag football. I cannot believe these are real sentences that we are saying, but this is really where we are, and this is where the general feeling from the league is. And it's not something that is, I would say, a slam dunk as far as the memo showed us. Like, there are certainly things to discuss. For instance, as of right now, it would be one player per team, and then you could also designate an international player. Well, what if more than one player on your team warrant being on a certain team, whether it's our country or another one? That would be a question. What if a coach says to a player, hey, I know you're allowed to participate, but I'd really, really like for you not to? How do you deal with that then? So there are certainly some things to work out. Insurance is going to be handled by the NFL. Medically, it's going to be fine. But what if a player gets injured? How do you handle that? There are for sure questions, but based on the kind of feel that I'm getting from talking to people involved in this, it seems there's a very good chance we see NFL players in what's going to be during training camp playing flag football in the Olympics.
Like Ian Rappaport said, a lot of questions. If a player gets injured, how do you handle that? That feels like a pretty big question going into this. I'm slightly surprised that this is going to pass reportedly on the first vote, or that there is at least a lot of momentum for it to pass on the first vote. Are you surprised by that? This struck me immediately as something that NFL owners almost unanimously would have said absolutely not. Or is there that much of a desperation to get NFL stars in front of a global audience at an event like the Olympics?
Surprised that NFL coaches and general managers love their country? You shouldn't be surprised, Lucas. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised there's not as much pushback, but it seems like something that they would allow them to do because of what you just said and Ian Rappaport spoke on as well. It's not going to be the cream of the crop. It's not going to be, I think in the green room you said, it's going to be Julius Chestnut.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Titans are going to send Julius Chestnut to play running back in flag football. Again, every team can only send one player plus a player with an international designation if Alec Manor wants to go represent Canada at the Olympics.
Yeah, my big thing is the only player I could see still doing this just to be like hell with it would be Tyreek Hill. He'd be almost 30, if not 30, in 3 years. And I feel like if he's still on a team, he's like, you know what, dude, this is the first one. I want to do this. Like, that's just the player he's been. He's always going to put himself first, not in a necessarily bad way, but I still think that Tyreek Hill would say, you know what, I'm going to go out there and play. I want a gold medal.
Like Rap Sheet said, this is going to be happening during training camp. So who is going to play quarterback for the United States in the flag football event at the Olympics? What NFL team is going to send their quarterback to miss practice at training camp to go play flag football, to risk injury, to be planting and cutting in the backfield, trying to escape defenders in flag football. Are we going to be sending backups? Are we going to be sending practice squad quarterbacks? Like, I didn't really have this occur to me yesterday because we were just having fun with the draft. We're having fun with the idea of Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson just juking the minds out of ex-defender from the Netherlands in a flag football game at the Olympics to throw it while rolling right down the field to Justin Jefferson. But now that realization kind of crashes down. They're not going to send Justin Jefferson. Why in the world would the Minnesota Vikings send Justin Jefferson to the Olympics? Or the Bengals sending Jamar Chase? Or the Broncos Pat Surtain? Or the Chiefs Pat Mahomes? I mean, the more you talk about these players, the more you bring up these NFL stars that would absolutely dominate in flag football, the more ridiculous it sounds. Quite honestly, the idea of the Ravens sending Lamar Jackson to go play flag football during training camp.
Okay, I understand that part, but like, how is it much different for maybe it's the culture around it, but like, how is it different for NBA players to go play basketball in the Olympics?
Well, it's in the off season.
Well, it's in the off season, but like the risk of injury is still there. The risk of not being able to reap what you've paid to get is still there. So like, sure, training camp, but like, how much do wide receivers really need training camp? How much do people that like, you know, the routes are running, you know, the offense, like, sure, quarterbacks to build that equity that we were talking about earlier with your team, but like, I wouldn't be upset if one of the Ravens players, say Zay Flowers, was like, I want to go play flag football. Okay. I mean, let him go play flag football. That doesn't bother me. And I also feel like we're disparaging the bottom line of the NFL, that these guys are still supreme athletes. Like, even if it was Julius Chestnut who went, like, Julius Chestnut is probably still a plus athlete compared to any other country's flag football team.
Yeah, for sure. Julius Chestnut, probably still the best running back out there in the event. Austin Stanley of A to Z Sports has texted us Diego Pavia as the quarterback. Like that's what those type of players, maybe UFL players. I don't know what Diego Pavia is going to be doing in a year when his eligibility is exhausted, or 3 years when the Olympics are happening.
Or could college players participate?
How many NFL teams just don't send players is going to be my question. Like, it's easy for NFL owners to vote yes and then turn around and say, oh, well, we're not going to send anybody. Like, we're voting yes to say that we can, that NFL players are eligible, I guess. But the other question here is, how many of these guys will want to play in the Olympics? Probably a decent portion, right? Like, that's one thing that football players have never had an opportunity to do. And we saw it last year with the basketball team, the U.S. basketball team, how much that meant to those players that led the U.S. to a gold medal in basketball. It was a huge story. I remember the story of Caitlin Clark even just being left off the women's team. So that is another fascinating aspect of this, is how many players really want to go and do something that's never been done before, which is an American football player get to go represent your country and compete for gold. So I definitely don't want to continue on this conversation. I feel like we're just kind of dunking on it, saying who's going to send their stars. No owner or coach in their right mind will want to, but I don't want to take away the value of representing your country at the Olympics. It's a special thing in every sport. Oftentimes we see passion of players come out the most when they're representing their country. Obviously, in sports like soccer, where that's a huge element of the sport, we see that. But in basketball, like, that's what made that run so much fun with the U.S. basketball team last year. Just how much they cared about it going down the stretch, how much those games meant to them. So, yeah, I don't want to take away the value of going to represent your country. We'll see. I will be surprised if teams do end up sending their biggest stars, although I'm not going to say I'll be shocked if more players than people think actually want to go play and represent their country.
Last thing on this, what do you think the breakdown of roster construction will be from professional flag football players, or I don't know what their league is, but there are leagues, like the dude who said, I'm a better flag football player than Patrick Mahomes is an NFL quarterback. How many of those flag football guys are going to be on the team versus NFL players? Is it going to be all NFL players, or is it going to be some people that major in flag football at the recreational level, or whatever the hell you want to call it?
That's going to be interesting. We'll see if this officially gets pushed through. Again, ESPN reporting that it is likely to pass. There's a lot of momentum for it, but we don't know. They could be voting on it as we speak, for all we know, up in Minneapolis. They will also be voting on playoff seeding, which we talked a little bit about yesterday. The idea that seeding in the NFL is simply determined by record, not specifically with your division. For example, if you're the Minnesota Vikings last year and you win 14 games, more than any team in your conference that's not the Detroit Lions, but you happen to share a division with the Lions, you wouldn't have to go on the road to be a wild card team. You would get to host as the 2 seed in the NFC. We'll see if that ends up passing. And the tush push, which we spent a ton of time on in the West Palm Beach version of owners' meetings. And the Packers have submitted their revised proposal to ban the tush push, which essentially got pushed to this week. This is expected to be voted on tomorrow. So this is amend Rule 12, Section 1, Article 4 as follows. Not necessarily the tush push as a play, but they are wanting to ban the following. Assisting the runner, an interlocking reference, saying no offensive player may push or pull a runner in any direction at any time or lift him to his feet. No offensive player may use interlocking interference by grasping a teammate or by using his hands or arms to encircle the body of a teammate in an effort to block an opponent. They may not push or throw his body against a teammate to aid him in an attempt to obstruct an opponent or to recover a loose ball, or they may not assist the runner except by individually blocking opponents for him. For assisting the runner, interlocking interference, or illegal use of hands, arms, or body by the offense, a penalty would be a loss of 10 yards.
So how do you feel about it now, knowing it is not just banning that play outright? It is banning the pushing and pulling of players,
right,
interlocking of players. I am worried that week 1 we are going to see this called because how many times has it happened that a ball is thrown short of the goal line, the players get stacked up, and then the crowds rush in to push? Like, so many times where it's like, okay, the referee could blow the whistle, he could blow the play dead, and they continue to rugby scrum into the end zone. I don't think that is a bad play. But now, under the letter of this law, that would be illegal. So I wonder if we're going to have a similar to last year where they tried to correct the depth of the offensive tackle for calling false starts or whatever they did in week 1 with the Ravens-Chiefs game. I wonder if week 1 don't even touch another player. You can't push them. You can't pull them. Don't even get around somebody who has the ball, or we're going to throw a flag. That is what I'm worried about. I would much rather them just ban the play.
Yeah, I agree. The Packers are putting this together in hopes that it will, put them in a more advantageous position to get this play banned. I think of the college game where you are not allowed to pull a teammate across a yard line or end zone, right? An offensive lineman, if a running back is pushing, trying to get into the end zone, cannot grab the running back and literally drag him into the end zone.
Which I'm okay with, because if you're pulling someone, your back is to the defenders.
Yes.
Where you could get hit in the back of the head, you can get hit in the, like, have a spinal injury. I'm okay with not pulling players into the end zone. But if you're pushing, you are looking in the direction that the play is going. I have no problem with pushing.
Yeah, but to your point, this language says you can't even push the pile. Pushing the pile, which happens all the time in the NFL. I'm reminded of a play, a Titans game against the Colts at home. I want to say 2022, a home win against the Colts. It might have been the game that Ben Jones was playing with. He had several of these. Broken a bone basically sticking out of his neck, and a million different injuries. And there was one first down that sort of encapsulated that entire game that the Titans had, where Derrick Henry had the ball, kind of got stymied a few yards before the line to gain, and the Titans' offensive line kind of converged around Derrick Henry and pushed him, I swear, 8 yards. Just absolutely bullying the Colts defense. And I just remember Ben Jones coming out of that pile as fired up as I've ever seen Ben Jones in a game. You're taking away that play with this language, which is why I'll be surprised if it gets passed. Because that feels like a pretty, I don't know, that feels like a pretty fundamental part of football. How often does that happen in a game where you see a running back kind of get stymied a little bit after a 5 to 6 yard gain, and then offensive linemen are just plunging themselves into the pile trailing the play, trying to just push it for a few more yards.
Now I wonder if the coaching would change where it's not even like rally to the ball carrier to push. Like now you have to go to attack and dislodge a defensive player from the tackle. So now you're going to have offensive linemen or people who weren't involved in that small part of the play running in to no longer maybe stop themselves from hitting their teammate full speed. Now you have someone that's just coming to try to dislodge the tackle, which I think could be more dangerous than actually pushing the pile.
Yeah.
What would I don't know. I wasn't okay with banning the tush push, but I'm definitely not okay with banning this.
No, I agree with you. I agree with your objection. Pushing players, that feels like a slippery slope. So I think I'll be surprised if that ends up getting passed. Seems like flag football is going to get passed in the NFL, or at least for NFL players to participate in flag football in the Olympics. And we'll see about playoff seeding. I'll be surprised if that one gets pushed through as well. I believe those are set to be voted on tomorrow, the tush push and playoff seeding, with flag football being voted on today. So we'll keep you updated with that. Pretty much out of time here to tell you about the rest of these headlines. We'll get to some of these big deals being handed out across the NFL, including to a head coach later on in the show. But first, Robert, do we have something to give away for what made you say, oh, no, in sports this week?
We do. We've got tickets to go see Eric Clapton.
Oh.
Should be a great show.
Where's he playing?
Well, I wish you wouldn't have asked me that. I gave you all the info that I could remember offhand.
Okay. Eric Clapton. Find out the date and the venue. You have to call 615-737-1045. If you give us the best submission for what made you say, oh, no, in sports this week, we will send you to Eric Clapton. Go see some blues. Oh, can we just get those tickets? We'll work on that in the break. 615-737-1045. Call now for your chance to win Eric Clapton tickets and tell us what made you say, oh, no, in sports. Coming up next. For your chance to see Eric Clapton, Robert Walsh, where and when?
It is going to be at Bridgestone in September on the 8th.
Eric Clapton, 80 years old, but he'll still melt your face off. September 8th, Bridgestone Arena, the blues god himself. All you got to do is tell us what made you say, oh no, in sports this week. The best submission heads to see Clapton. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. I'll start the bidding with Mets star Juan Soto, the $765 million man who on Monday night in the 6th inning was leading off for the Mets at Fenway Park when they were playing the Boston Red Sox. A heavy wind was blowing through Boston from left field. Soto hit a 102-mile-per-hour line drive to left field and stood and watched. As it sailed, it was going, he thought it was gone, and then it wasn't. The ball hit about two-thirds of the way up, off of the Green Monster, and Juan Soto only managed a single as he stood and watched his would-be home run. So Mets manager Carlos Mendoza said after the game that he's going to have to talk to Juan Soto about hustling out of the batter's box a little bit more. He said, quote, he thought he had it, but with the wind and all that, and in this ballpark, anywhere, but in particular in this one, with that wall right there, you got to get out of the box. So, yeah, we will discuss that. Now, Juan Soto ended up getting on first. He was able to steal second and ended up stranded, and the Mets lost to the Red Sox 3-1. So Juan Soto standing and watching on that contract as the ball hits off the Green Monster, costing himself a base, potentially a run, is what made me say, oh, no, this week.
Juan Ono. For me this week, it was right there, right on the tee.
Right
I had
there.
to hit it. Ashton Genty showing up at Raiders camp. They went through rookie minicamp last week, and an interesting interview with Kay Adams came out where what is one defining feature about Ashton Genty that you remember from him at Boise State?
That he wears jeans under his football pants?
No, not that one. That is notable, but that he stands straight up in the backfield like the Terminator, like the Predator, looking over his prey. He never got down low, never got in a running back stance, always just stood straight up and took off. Well, Chip Kelly said, nah. You're not going to do that over here, buddy. You got to get down and act like you're a running back.
Man, Chip Kelly, he comes to me the first day of rookie minicamp. He like, you play basketball? Like, you ever play basketball? I'm like, yeah, I played basketball. Like, you know, I could dunk, all that. He's like, okay. He was like, show me how you would guard me. Like, and he acting like he holding the ball.
Let's do this, get up.
He like, show me how you would guard me. He holding the ball. Like, act like you holding the ball.
Okay, got it, yeah.
Then I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Like, I'm, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was like, that's exactly why you got to be down in your running back stance.
No, you're so convicted.
I was,
And
but
then he won?
uh,
Just like that? That's all it took?
he won for now. I'm gonna try to persuade him one day. I gotta earn my stripes, make some plays first, but I don't think it's gonna be the end.
Hey, what a dumb example. Hey, show me how you would guard me if we were playing basketball. And we're not playing basketball, Chip. I'm a running back. You just took me as a running back in the first round. How about you do what I did? How about you let me be special in my own way? Why the hell do I have to play your way? Didn't you ruin Shady McCoy and ship him off for nothing? My own no. Come on, let Ashton Genty stand straight up.
Oh, R.I.P. the Halloween stance from Ashton Genty from his Boise State days.
He's going to bring it back. That first long touchdown, he going to look at Chip and be like, I'm standing straight up.
I liked his answer, though. I got to earn my stripes, you know, prove that I belong in the NFL, prove that I'll be one of the best running backs throughout the course of my career. If he does that, he can stand in whatever stance he wants to, no matter what Chip Kelly says. I do hope that's not the end of the Ashton Genty standing straight up. I can't believe you got Buck with the Ashton Genty wears jeans under his football pants, and that's why he stands like that.
That might
in
be
the backfield.
The most gullible situation he's ever been put in. He was like, shut up.
He was fully bought in.
He was 100% bought in that Ashton Genty was wearing stiff, starched up jeans, and that's why he had to stand up in the backfield. That's why if you watch his legs, he can never really bend his knees all the way. Those jeans are so tight. It's for the security of his knees. No way.
Good submission by you. 615-737-1045 for your chance to get 2 tickets to go see Eric Clapton at Bridgestone Arena September 8th. Bart in Murfreesboro will start the bidding. From Bert to Bart. Go ahead, Bart.
Mine definitely goes to former NFL player Darius Taylor, who was arrested in the human trafficking sting in Florida this week when he was one of 250 people who were arrested. My oh no definitely goes out to former NFL player Darius Taylor. Thanks.
Well, that is terrible. Thank you for the call, Bart. I had not seen that. Ardarius Taylor arrested in a human trafficking scandal? My goodness. Okay, we'll keep it moving. Glad we're keeping it lighthearted now on this Tuesday show. Jason in Nashville is up next. Hey, Jason.
Yeah, mine is just all the drama between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. Like, everybody's freaking out on social media and stuff. And what are we doing? It's the WNBA. I don't know if that's like really worth everybody. I mean, I'm seeing people on, the news debate about this. I don't get it. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction.
Thanks for the call, Jason. So this Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark stuff. First of all, let me say, I love that there is this player rivalry going on in the WNBA, and I love that it's carried over from their college days of playing each other in the Final Four and now playing each other in the WNBA. And clearly there's a history between the two. They were the two biggest stars in women's basketball when they were there at the same time, now in the WNBA. But it has kind of gotten carried away. The Ryan Clark RG3 spat on social media has gotten carried away. And we don't even have time to delve into everything that they were throwing at each other.
Nor do we want to.
On Twitter. Nor do we want to. It's just, hey, look at us, everybody. We're arguing. Just call each other. Handle it there. But I don't know. I don't mind the rivalry in and of itself. I think it's great for the sport, honestly.
Yeah, what I'm upset about is everyone making it like a hate thing. Like, no, it's just competitive. Like, I don't know. Like, she got upset about a hard foul, as you should as a player.
Right.
But she got hard fouled, which it happens in basketball. Like, they're just competitive. I don't see a big thing. Everybody's trying to make it personal with, like, oh, Angel Reese this, or she hates her. I mean, they're just playing basketball, man.
615-737-1045. Again, the best submission of what made you say, oh, no, in sports this week, headed to Eric Clapton in September at Bridgestone. Wally is up next in Smyrna. Hey, Wally.
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Good, man. What you got?
My oh no has got to be Mitch Marner telling the bench, wake the F up in Game 7. Mitch, you have played 6 Game 7s, and you have 2 total assists. Buddy, you are going to get crucified in the Toronto media. That was just an oh no.
Thanks for the call, Wally. The Toronto Maple Leafs can be an oh no. Again, coming up short in the postseason, 6-1. The Panthers, that game's scoreless going into the second period. In Game 7, Florida with a 3-goal flurry. The Maple Leafs get on the board. You think that, okay, let's see if they can make this a game here. 6-1 the final as the Florida Panthers move on to the Eastern Conference Finals for they continue their dream of a repeat alive. It's a good submission by Wally. I mean, I would just extrapolate that to the Toronto Maple Leafs organization as a whole for the way they fell on their face in Game 7, which the Denver Nuggets did too, by the way, against the Thunder, but it's a little bit different when Nikola Jokic has done what he's done, and they obviously have a title under their belt here in the last few years. Mitch Marner and the Maple Leafs, a great submission by Wally. Nick in Shelbyville's up next. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, so unfortunately I was going to speak on Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, but with that being said, I've kind of shuffled to this Travis Hunter. These videos coming out of him running these routes and the uproar that it's causing because he doesn't look too good doing it. But that's my submission.
Thanks for the call, Nick. I mean, my oh-no in sports could be judging Travis Hunter on what he's going to be his rookie year based on some video that's coming out of him running on a field with no pads on. I don't know about, am I being too harsh on Nick's submission there, Robert?
No, we did this with Jamar Chase in the preseason. Do you remember this?
The drops.
The football's different. He can't catch the football. Let's just wait till they play.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing you can glean from him. Same thing at his pro day where everybody was like, he's running these goofy-ass routes. Nobody's going to ever try to run that route. And I didn't think he was actually running a route. I thought he was trying to show off his change of direction. But, like, none of it, it's all circumstantial. It's all whoosy whatsy until we get into the NFL season and they actually play a game. Like, he could look terrible. He could come out riding a tricycle to training camp. Oh, that's too small for him. What's he thinking? Who cares until they play the game?
It's crazy to think about the Jamar Chase discourse in his first training camp in Cincinnati. Couldn't catch the ball. Drops were a huge concern.
And it happened pretty quick, too, where they were like, he's going to be okay. I need to go back and look at the game logs, but I'm pretty sure in, like, week 1, he just, like, blew up.
Oh, he's so good. Yeah. Went on to have, what would he have, a 1,400-yard receiving season in his rookie year with Cincinnati? Just absurd. Absolutely absurd, helping them on that run to the Super Bowl, which obviously came at the cost of the Titans. So
his first game against Minnesota, 5 catches or 7 targets, 5 catches, 100 yards.
Yeah, that's what we knew. Okay, he's fine. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. All right, so Wally going to win the tickets? Wally's submission of Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs and the way they fell on their face in Game 7?
I'm cool with that. What do you think Wally's short for?
Walter?
I didn't know that. He had to fill me in.
Can you ask him?
It is. I'd asked him before he got on.
It is Walter.
Because you don't hear about Wally anymore. I was like, man, what's Wally short for?
Well, I have no way to smoothly transition. I was going to try to do a thing
That's
there.
my fault.
Eric Kane of VolQuest talking Tennessee baseball next.
The Tennessee Men's Clinic is such a great resource. It's been such a great resource for guys over the last decade plus working here in Middle Tennessee. And at some point in your life, as your body starts to change, as you start to age, you may be feeling like you've got a little less energy. You may be feeling like performance issues have started to pop up, and you may have resigned yourself to the fact that those things just happen. It doesn't have to be that way. Whether it's low energy or those performance issues that I mentioned, those aren't inevitable. And in fact, solutions exist. The Tennessee Men's Clinic difference is that there's no guesswork and no gimmicks, just real science and effective treatments. Because you don't want to mess with online fixes that oftentimes give you generic pills that are overpriced and most times ineffective. They will offer you at the Tennessee Men's Clinic personalized treatment plans with multiple urologists and providers on hand to tailor solutions specifically to your body and to your goals. Their men's services are comprehensive, whether it's ED treatments or testosterone and other options that many guys don't even know exist. Call them today at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or visit them online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com today.
What's going on? Just about 11 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Two big extensions in the NFL yesterday and this morning. We'll start with yesterday as the 49ers signed linebacker Fred Warner to a new deal. 3 years, $63 million contract extension that includes over $56 million in guaranteed money, making him the NFL's highest paid linebacker. It marks the second time in his 7-year career that Warner has landed a contract that makes him the league's highest paid linebacker. Then this morning, Bears guard Joe Thuney signing a 2-year extension worth $35 million. If Thuney plays out the rest of his current deal, he will have made more money than any other guard in NFL history. Western Conference Finals getting started tonight between the Thunder and the Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 7:30. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
SEC baseball tournament is officially underway in Hoover, Alabama. They are certainly not experiencing the same weather we are up here in Music City as Alabama leads Missouri 2-1. Bottom of the 5th inning. Winner of that game moves on to play Tennessee tomorrow morning, a 9:30 Central first pitch as it is scheduled. Eric Kane of VolQuest covers Tennessee baseball better than anybody. He joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. Eric, have you made it down to Hoover yet? Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, man. I have not made my way down to Hoover. I plan to do that this evening, but you know how the weather is down there. I think the rain's in the forecast coming up, so maybe the game will get bumped to tomorrow afternoon. Who knows? But I plan on making the voyage down there this evening.
And Tennessee obviously finishing out the regular season with 5 straight SEC series losses, the last one at Arkansas after taking game 1, dropping games 2 and 3. And it's just made for a weird season, Eric. I was listening to 3HL in the afternoon yesterday talking about the state of this team right now, and Ron Slay is claiming, loudly proclaiming that Tennessee baseball sucks right now. It's just a team that sucks. Brent Doherty's pushing back, citing the lack of 40-win seasons in the history of the program, and Tony Vitello has done it yet again this year. But here we are with a team that's lost 5 straight SEC series. They haven't won back-to-back games in over a month at this point. I mean, how do you even begin to sum up this season with the start that it had and this feeling of they're just carrying over from last year to this crazy slide we're on heading into the most important stretch?
Oh, man. Lucas, I'm going to try to be concise here because this can be a long answer. But, I mean, I think perspective is key, right? I mean, I think, part of the conversation with Brent, he's saying, perspective is key. Like, look at all the 40-win seasons. Look at how many 40-win seasons before Tony Vitello in this, last 25 years. This would be, I believe, the second best year without Tony Vitello this last 25 years. That goes to show you something, right? I mean, to show you where the program was. Coming off a national championship, look at what teams have done coming off a national championship the following year, specifically in conference play. Outside of Florida in 2017, Tennessee's had a pretty good season. But at the end of the day, also with what Ron's saying, I mean, Tennessee's not playing good baseball right now. It's not had timely hitting. It's not had enough pitching. It's had sloppy defense, and it's just kind of carried over week to week to week. And it's unfortunate because they've never been swept this year. They've been in every single game. They just can't find the answers in games 2 and 3 of the series. And even you switched up your starting rotation last week, and Liam Doyle, who's the SEC pitcher of the year, had an uncharacteristic bad outing as well. So it's been frustrating. I do think offensively, Tennessee's looked a lot better the last 2 weekends. It didn't really show in the Vanderbilt series. It did show in the Arkansas series. Yes, they left too many men on base. That's frustrating. But if you want to have some hope and some confidence heading to Hoover, the offenses look better. And, I mean, talent's never been an issue here, right? There's so much talent on this roster. It's just trying to put it together and trying to find the right pieces to plug into the lineup. And Tony Vitello's been doing that all SEC season, trying to find that right combination.
Eric Kane with us of VolQuest at _Kaner, where you can find him, follow his work on Twitter. Has that been the most frustrating part? The amount of tinkering in the lineup from Tony Vitello. You mentioned with the rotation. It feels like Tony has tried damn near everything this season, yet still here we are with 5 straight series losses.
yes and no. Like, I think it's frustrating from a fan's perspective. So many times fans are saying, just leave it. Let's go. I mean, how can anybody find consistency if you're always moving around? And then, a guy comes to the plate and he's 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Like, oh, what is he doing here? You got to move him down in the lineup. It's an impossible job, but that's why you get paid $3.2 million or whatever it is. I respect the fact that you're just trying to find that right combination, seeing what's not working, trying something out. Ariel and T, we got a lot of run. During the Gavin Keelan injury situation, they tried him. They've tried Dean Curley at short. They've settled on him at second. They tried a number of different things in left field. They've settled with Dalton Bargo in left field with the freshman Manny Marin at third. Levi Clark seems to have emerged the last 2 weekends as a designated hitter. So they've tried some different roles and all that, and I can respect that. But at some point, you do kind of have to just roll with your guys. And, there's been a point the last couple of years in SEC play where it's like series 6 or 7 where it's like, all right, here's your 8 guys in the field, go. Like, this is it. Here's your DH. Here's your 8 guys in the field. There's your pitcher, go. And Tennessee simply has never really reached that point this year. So that has been frustrating. But in the same sense, when you're losing weekend series, you're trying to figure out a new way to win. And Tennessee's certainly been, searching for that.
Yeah, and it's been a while since Tennessee played on Wednesday morning in an SEC tournament, or at least it feels that way. Last year, going in as the 1 seed, the regular season champion, end up winning the tournament. In a weird way, though, Eric, does the SEC tournament feel like it carries much more weight in 2025 than it did in 2024 in terms of the stakes with this team?
Absolutely. I think your whole mindset's different. Like, you're never going down there trying to lose. But like last year and in 2022, when Tennessee was the number 1 seed and they were humming on into Hoover, like, you were thinking regional. You were hosting already. You were thinking big picture stuff. You're trying to line up your pitching. You're trying to get guys work that need to get work. I mean, you are using this week truly as, I don't want to call it practice because it's not, but you have more important things to be working on. And sure, there's going to be some of that this week as well, but you are going into this week in the conference tournament, losers of 5 straight series, 6 of your last 7. You lost 5 straight rubber matches. You have an outside chance of hosting, but probably not. More than anything, you just need some good vibes. You need to get some confidence. You need to remember, like, hey, we're a talented team. We can win baseball games. We've done it before. So, yeah, I think the pressure is more this year compared to when you're the number 1 seed because you need some type of positive momentum heading into NCAA regionals. And it hasn't happened the last 5 weekends. If you go 1 and done in Hoover, that's not going to be great. On the flip side of that, you get a lot of rest, some time away from the field. Maybe that'll do some good. But I think it would behoove Tennessee to win a couple of games here and try to find some confidence heading into wherever Tennessee's going to be playing next weekend.
Yeah, and I heard you say on the VolQuest podcast that came out today, which you can catch wherever you get your podcast, that, I mean, at this point, it's hard to make the argument that Tennessee deserves to host in the postseason, regardless of what they do down in Hoover. I agree with you there, but with that in mind, what would they have to do to even make it a discussion of hosting come next week?
Well, first and foremost, I think Alabama needs to hold on and win this game. I think Tennessee needs to play Alabama tomorrow because Alabama is the 9th ranked RPI team in the country. So you win against Alabama. You beat Texas on Thursday, which Texas is number 4 RPI. Those are 2 really good RPI wins. Then you have an off day, and, obviously you'll probably play, another really respectively high RPI team as well. So I think a deep run in Hoover is necessary. I think they need to play Alabama tomorrow. If you beat Alabama and you lose to Texas, that's a wash. It doesn't matter. If you play Alabama tomorrow, that's pretty much a hosting knockout game because Alabama's in that conversation as well. The same with the potential of Florida and Ole Miss. I think that would come tomorrow as well. That would be a knockout game in terms of hosting. So I think that needs to happen. You need to also scoreboard watch outside of the SEC. You want to root against Dallas Baptist. You want to root against Kansas. You want to root against some of these other teams, UCLA. You want to root against some of these other teams that are on the hosting bubble as well. But I think the simplest form, and I don't think it's an outside chance outside of, maybe going to Sunday, you want to play Alabama tomorrow. You want to beat Alabama. You want to beat Texas. And you need some help because I think that's a lot of RPI to gain right there. So outside chance, but still a chance. And, Tennessee, that's all you can ask for.
So you're saying there's a chance. Eric Kane with us on 104.5 The Zone. Bama up 2-1, top of the 6 against Mizzou right now in Hoover. And Vanderbilt sitting there in the quarterfinals, the 4 seed, one of the hottest teams in the league at this point, sweeping Kentucky to finish out the regular season. How impressive is it what Vandy has done down the stretch here, including beating Tennessee in the series on the road?
Yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt's typical. I mean, Tim Corbin's a really, really good coach. They've had so much success over the years. And, statistically, Vanderbilt's offensively was not a very good team prior to the Tennessee series. And that's why it was frustrating because Vanderbilt outslugged Tennessee, outhit Tennessee. And that was really frustrating because Tennessee had a top 5 offense in the league and Vanderbilt did not at the time. So good programs find ways to win late when it's crunch time. And that's certainly what Vanderbilt's doing. And you look at all these national projections, I think, number 3 seed overall, number 4 seed overall, I think it's 11.7 that has Tennessee as with the 14th seed Georgia Tech matched up with a potential supers with Vanderbilt. There's been a couple of those the last couple of weeks. So, man, that would be super exciting if, no pun intended, if Tennessee and Vanderbilt met in the supers. But really impressive. They got ball players. They know how to win. They got a really good coach. So we'll see what happens there. A lot of good baseball in the state of Tennessee, usually with these two programs.
No doubt. Eric Kane has been our guest at _Kaner on Twitter. Follow his coverage of the Tennessee run in the SEC baseball tournament throughout the course of the week. Eric, thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
Hey, thanks so much.
Coming up next, Titans press conferences from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. We will hear from Titans players, including left tackle Dan Moore Jr.
Hit the buzzer beater with your retirement goals. Call Trajan Wealth today, and they'll walk you through the process with their tailored wealth management solutions. The simple truth is that there is more to retirement planning, for example, than simply calculating your expenses. Trajan Wealth can help you design a strategy based on realistic options that align with your goals and with your circumstances. If you're interested in wealth management that's designed to protect, maintain, and expand your financial portfolio, then Trajan Wealth is here for you. They offer retirement income planning services that start with an in-depth understanding of your short and long-term goals. So call Trajan Wealth today to learn more about these strategies. 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000. There are 2 locations here locally, Brentwood and Franklin, or online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement.
Getting ready to hear from select Titans players at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Quite a few Titans players getting ready to step up to the podium. Van Jefferson, Dan Moore Jr., Cody Barton, and Tony Pollard are the players that I have seen getting ready to talk. So of those, who do you want to hear from the most if you're a Titans fan? 615-737-1045. Got some time here before we start carrying this press conference, which you can also watch live on 1045 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, chiming in on the F&M Bank chat. Dan Moore Jr. stepping up to the podium, meeting with Titans media for the first time since signing that 4-year deal over $80 million. He is a top 10 highest paid left tackle in the National Football League. Does that mean the expectation for Dan Moore Jr. is to be a top 10 left tackle in the National Football League? I'm hard-pressed to say yes. He hasn't been that at this point in his career, and I don't think the Titans believe they're getting that and giving him that contract. To the Titans, that money feels like it's worth the consistency and availability of Dan Moore Jr. And if you can get yourself a league average, consistent, and available left tackle that won't be somebody you can game plan around, won't be someone that defenses can fear, maybe won't be somebody that can neutralize the elite pass rushers of the NFL, but is somebody that you can just play with, which is a low bar for the Titans, but is where the bar has been set in regards to left tackle play over the course of the last few years, really since the back end of the Taylor Lewan era.
I'm interested to hear from Dan Moore. We didn't get a press conference from him after he was signed. And I feel like a lot of people look at numbers broadly and be like, oh, look how many sacks he gave up last year. Dude, that's a lot of sacks. But in watching it, like Justin Fields and Russell Wilson did him no favors in running into pressure, breaking pockets. Really interested to see how he sounds, how confident he is, just the entire process for him. So that's who I'm looking forward to, even if it is another boring offensive lineman talking at the podium. That's cool with me. I'm cool with boring offensive linemen. I'm good friends with the one on the morning show.
Hey, now.
Yeah, that was my little drive-by of my own.
And Callahan was asked about that in his press conference earlier today, why Dan Moore Jr. didn't speak. And he gave some logistical reasons of him flying out of town at a certain time, and it just didn't work out. Either way, we get to hear from the new Titans left tackle coming up here in just a few moments. And then Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson is by no means a lock to make this roster or to make any roster, right? I don't think Van Jefferson has done enough in this league to show up at any team's training camp and you say, all right, well, that he obviously is part of the 53. Go ahead and pencil him in. But I'm pretty close to being there, though, with this Titans wide receiver room, just from an experience standpoint. Like the Titans could add another veteran presence. We talked about it a little bit last week. Amari Cooper's still out there. Keenan Allen is still out there. But I have this feeling that the Titans are just kind of done at the receiver room. And you've got your veterans in Calvin Ridley, who's coming off a 1,000-yard season, and Tyler Lockett, who figures to play primarily in the slot and be a good option for a young rookie quarterback. And Van Jefferson, who, you know, has a Super Bowl to his resume, and he was by no means a passenger, right, in that Super Bowl winning season. It was an 800-yard season for Van Jefferson in his rookie year. Local product, which we've talked about, Ravenwood High School, went to Ole Miss, went to Florida. But just has kind of bounced around since then and has been an auxiliary third, fourth option receiver at best since that rookie year where he kind of burst onto the scene a little bit with the LA Rams. But I'm almost okay with the approach in the wide receiver room for the Titans this year of going in with those three vets. And there's a clear pecking order with those, right? Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson. Calvin Ridley's in the best, you know, still a younger player. I know he's north of 30, but younger than Tyler Lockett, coming off a much more productive season than Lockett. Still has that explosive playability, that ability to stretch the field. I mean, Calvin Ridley, we could look it up. The yards per catch for Calvin Ridley, I'd be curious to see where it ranks in the NFL. Because a lot of his plays made last season on the way to a 1,000-yard campaign were deep balls. The few times he and Will Levis connected, whether it was Mason Rudolph in the Detroit Lions game. So I still believe Calvin Ridley can add that element to this offense. Tyler Lockett is what he is, and you needed an option like that. And then Van Jefferson is just a guy that's been around and done it. Not to any great degree of success, but when you look elsewhere, your wide receiver room consists of 2 drafted rookies in Shamir DK and Elikayo Manor and Jaquan Jackson. And then you get down to Traylon Burks and Mason Kinsey and Colton Dow, who didn't play last year with the ACL injury. So if the Titans go into this season with this kind of approach of you've got your 2 to 3 vets plus the 2 rookies that you just kind of need to grow up quickly, I feel like that's at the very least enough to find out about Cam Ward or to not put Cam Ward in a situation where he's completely deserted within this offense. Defensively, it seems like the only player we're going to hear from here in a few moments will be linebacker Cody Barton, the former Denver Bronco, who will go up against his former team in Week 1 when the Titans open the season in Denver, Mile High Stadium, that 3:05 kickoff on Fox in Week 1. But on that defensive side, Brian Callahan was asked about L'Jarius Sneed today, and his answer wasn't particularly encouraging as he talked about the rehab process for the cornerback, said it's ongoing and that he's, quote, in a good spot, that he would like for Sneed to be able to practice more. Sneed would like to be able to practice more. But that Callahan said that the knee is something that they're still having to manage and the quad is still rehabbing. Robert, it just, nothing about the L'Jarius Sneed situation right now is inspiring any confidence that the Titans are going to be able to salvage something out of the former Super Bowl champion with the Chiefs that they gave that contract to, that they traded for. But a guy at the age of 28, which, again, you can be in the prime of your career at the age of 28 at the cornerback position. You could be declining, but you could also be in the prime of your career coming into this season with the quad that he's rehabbing, which was the primary issue last year. But to bring up the knee, as Brian Callahan said, that is something that they have to manage, quote, all the time. I don't know. Nothing about that experience is inspiring confidence right now. And that's not even getting into the off-field stuff that has come up about L'Jarius Sneed, which the Titans have, unsurprisingly, no commented on.
And for all the discussion about how bad the contract was for L'Jarius Sneed, and it was bad. Like right now, looking at it without having seen what he's going to do this year or the years upcoming, it's not a great contract looking back at it. But after this season, the Titans can get out from underneath him and save about $11 million, close to $12 million if he's cut after this season. So if he doesn't show up, if he doesn't figure it out, so be it. Like my dad used to have a saying, like if you lent somebody money and they never gave it back to you or they're hard-pressed getting it back to you, it was worth that money to learn that they wasn't never going to pay you again. It was worth that $20 so you ain't got to deal with them anymore. So it is worth it this season to find out where he is. Because if he's not up to snuff, then cut him. Get the money back. Get the spot back. Get somebody that can get in there and play that you don't have to worry about shooting up a dealership or getting his knee hurt more.
Yeah, the Titans have really it took a while to phase out the J-Rob influence on the roster. I will say this, the Titans, it feels like, have moved quickly to phase out the Ran Carthon influence on the roster, primarily with Will Levis, obviously, and drafting that quarterback to replace him. But if the L'Jarius Sneed situation fizzles, then that will be that last big impact that Ran Carthon imprinted onto this roster out the door. And I'd love an honest moment from Mike Borgonzi on this. Truly, we'll never get it, ever. But I'd just be so fascinated to know what Mike Borgonzi, who was on the other side of that trade as an assistant general manager in Kansas City, who negotiated that trade with his now boss, Chad Brinker. I'd love an honest moment with Borgonzi on just what he thinks right now of the L'Jarius Sneed situation in Tennessee. I don't know. On the F&M Bank chat, Tennessee Titans Superman 47 says, Lucas with no mention of Xavier Restrepo, SMH. Look, my expectation for Xavier Restrepo, I'm not going to say that it is the same as any other UDFA receiver that you pick up, because it is different. Like, I think some folks are trying to say that. I'm not going to say that. That's just ignoring too much. Xavier Restrepo is going to have more eyeballs on him for good reason. And it's not just because he's Cam Ward's buddy. Like, it would be one thing if Cam Ward had this ride or die former receiver of his, whether it was at Incarnate Word or Washington State or Miami, that came along and we were just gassing up this receiver just because he's Cam Ward's friend. Like, Xavier Restrepo is the all-time leading receiver at Miami. I'm tired of this, and maybe it's just trying to scale expectations and dial them back, but we don't have to go to either extreme, right? We don't have to go to the extreme that Xavier Restrepo is going to come in and be the best Titans UDFA since Drew Bennett, right? That he's going to be the new Nick Westbrook-Akine and come over and lead the team in touchdowns and be Cam Ward's favorite target. Like, we don't have to lean in all the way to that. It also doesn't mean that we have to swing the pendulum all the way to the other side and say, no, he's just any other UDFA. There's no reason to talk about Xavier Restrepo. It does matter that he was Cam Ward's favorite target at Miami. Why? Cam Ward's your quarterback now. Like, it does matter. They're going to be practicing together, and Cam Ward's going to be getting him the football after campaigning to get him on whatever team he ended up on. And I don't think Cam Ward just did that because that's his buddy. I think Cam Ward believes Xavier Restrepo can help an NFL team. Okay, that's one thing. And then the production at the college level. To sneeze at that and say he's like any other UDFA, like, come on. Nick Westbrook-Akine coming out of Indiana, and what he turned into, that's probably a bad example. But any other UDFA is Mason Kinsey, is Bryce Oliver. With respect to those guys who have earned their spots at various different levels for the Titans, that's not the same thing as bringing in the all-time lead receiver at Miami who fell out of the draft because he had a bad 40 time, which he attributed to a soft tissue injury at Pro Day. So, like, why can't we just be in the middle on that and say, yeah, he's a UDFA, expectations are measured, but there are more eyes on him than usual for a typical UDFA, and that's okay. So, we will not hear, though, from Xavier Restrepo today. We will hear from some Titans vets, and while we wait on them, why don't we go ahead and break early here so we can carry the press conference. Coming up next, you'll hear from select Titans players from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. An ABBA Tuesday on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. Presented by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. I'm Lucas Panzica. Robert Walsh and I with you until 1 o'clock as we await. Titans players were scheduled to speak at 11:15, and it sounds like that press conference is ready to get started. Robert Walsh is gasping for air back there after eating some of the leftover damn hot from Hattie B's Hot Chicken that was graciously dropped off yesterday. Some damn hot, some medium, grilled, and fried. That was, I'm not going to lie, my first time trying Hattie B's grilled chicken, and I am sold. I'm sold. It's so hard for me not to get the half bird or a quarter leg of the medium hot fried chicken, but the grilled. New experience for me. And as usual, Hattie B's knocked it out of the park. So, Titans players, Robert, who was the first player that's...
Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard is meeting with Titans media now. We go to it live.
A bad high ankle sprain, like later in the season that I kind of played through. But after the season, I kind of took a little time off, just let it heal on its own, and now it's good.
How do you approach off seasons now at this stage of your career compared to earlier? Have you changed anything to try to get ready?
Being more aggressive in the off season. So, just being more aggressive with, my body, keeping my body in shape, not having as long of a downtime in between the season and when I get back going for the off season. So just knowing that, being older, being a little bit, a vet in this league, you got to keep your body in shape. So when it's time to get back going, you're ready.
Cam's been called a culture changer by a lot of his college coaches. Can you see why they would say that from your initial interactions with him on the practice field?
Just the energy that he brings. Wherever he is, he's going to be himself. He's going to be a very confident guy. And when you go out there and see him on the field, it makes sense why he acts the way he acts and, moves the way he moves. It shows on the field.
Tony, that 8-team kind of off-season system you guys are doing right now, how does that compare to what you guys did last year at this point and maybe before that when you were in Dallas?
That's something that I kind of like that we've been doing. It just makes the team get closer, building that connectivity, just kicking it with guys outside of football, outside of X's and O's, just learning about your teammates, learning the backstories, just doing things outside the facility with the guys, so it's a great thing for the team in the long run.
Have you been scoring some points?
What was that?
Have you been scoring some points?
Yeah, we got a good score right now.
Who's on your team?
It's about 10 or 12 guys right now, so yeah, got about 10 guys on my team.
And associate captain in your team?
Right now, I'm the captain of the team. The associate captain is T. Sweat. What are you guys playing for? That's a good question. I'm not sure what the prize is. I just know guys are competing, making it fun, and it's a good thing to have that, that fun energy around the building.
Do you know what the punishment is that you're trying to avoid for coming last?
I don't, but I just know I don't want to be last, so that's something I'm not really worried about.
Do you feel like that program has kind of like increased the level of competition between each other in this time, like phase 2 as opposed to last year?
Definitely. Just it gets guys talking that don't normally talk. Then the way that Coach, he set up the locker room different this year. It's not position groups and you send with your running back group or you send with the receiver group. It's everybody's randomly sitting by each other. So you got to talk to different guys. Get to know people throughout the locker room. So it's a great thing, just connecting with the whole team.
How's that been for you so far? Like, have you gotten to know anybody a little bit better just in this short time?
Definitely. Just, sitting next to my locker mates, talking with the guys that's on my team. We have this thing where we do it's called the 4 H's, where we go and talk about our history, our heroes, our hopes, and our heartbreaks. And all the guys tell their story, and that's just a great thing, just learning backstories, what guys have been through, and what they had to overcome to be where they are now.
The guys, who are you next to in the locker room now?
I'm sitting next to my left is Sneed. I got L'Jarius Sneed to my left. To my right, I got Keandre Coleman. Beside him, I got Sid. Who's beside Sneed? I think Tajay is beside Sneed. Then it's Lloyd Cushenberry. Then it's Cam. Then it's Ridley. Then it's on down the line. Yeah.
Were you pretty happy with the way production and distribution went last year in terms of the running back spot? I think Brian said
maybe he'd like to distribute things a little bit more evenly if, Tajay plays a little bit more. Would you like to see it more like last year? Would you like to see it change a little bit more? What do you think?
Whatever way we can contribute to the success of the team, getting more guys involved, keeping guys fresh, whatever it is that's going to keep us, winning games and keep guys fresh throughout the season, it's ideal.
How much do you feel the emphasis on stopping the negative plays, avoiding turnovers, getting away from penalties? How much do you feel the emphasis on that now? How much do you feel the emphasis on that even at this early stage could have a bearing on games?
It's a lot more. I think that's kind of the reason why we have teams, to keep guys accountable. So you got the leader of the group, and then you got all the other guys in the team. And if any one person in that team messes up at practice or has a ME or a mental error or something like that on the play, that's a negative. So that makes you be accountable for everything you're doing throughout the building. We may have days we come into the meeting, they ask us questions from the day before. And so those are points that you can get. So it just makes you be, a little bit more locked in and engaged.
So I know you point to the difference in the teams and some of that emphasis and stuff. Do you feel a difference around here this year as opposed to a year ago when you first got here?
I would say, yeah. Just it feels like it's a lot more confidence in the building. Guys kind of have a feel for how things go, being in this system. All of us were new to it last year, so we were kind of figuring out things and how it worked. And now I feel like for the most part, guys are getting comfortable in a good way and just, playing ball the way they know how.
Were you encouraged to see some of the new signings on the offensive line and some of the moves there? What are your thoughts on what might be in store for you guys up front?
Definitely. Anytime we can, add depth to the O-line, that's a positive for me. The run game, pass game, play action, just to get everything going that starts up front with those big guys.
Is JC recognizable?
JC, you can't miss him.
He's not quite as big as he was. Right?
Yeah, he's lost a few pounds, but he looks great. He's running great on the field. Mentally, all the players are coming to him a lot easier. He looks like he's taking that next step in the right direction.
Is he one of those guys emerging as leadership on this team?
He's more of a vocal guy. He's one of the guys that likes to break it up, things like that in the huddle. So you can say that.
What do you think about Mullings and maybe some of the other guys in the rookie class?
We got some great guys that we picked up in this draft class. So Mullings, he's a great back, a physical back that we added to our roster. And we got Micah, he's another guy, that can be electric, be explosive on the field. And so, we're just trying to find ways, to better our team.
What did you learn a couple of years ago about playing on this contract year? Just kind of how do you handle that? And do you have any conversations with the team about trying to extend before the season, or you just kind of want to play it out?
That's something right now I'm not really concerned about. I'm making the main thing, and that's going out here playing football, being locked in day to day, and winning games, and everything else will take care of itself.
Getting back to that off-season program you guys are doing, is that unique to your experience, obviously here, but to what you did in Dallas?
I think it's a little unique as far as like the team and the points and things like that. But as far as just, being connected and, just guys hanging with each other outside of the facility, that's something that I was similar with in Dallas.
Was it kind of tough, like to get the initial, I don't know what the word is, to understand like the setup, like how it was working?
What you mean?
As far as like the points and the teams and splitting up and how you guys were going to do that within phase 2 and then even looking into phase 3.
It wasn't really hard. I'm a competitive guy. As long as I heard it was teams and points involved, I knew my job is to get as many points and try to win. So that's how we're thinking about it.
When you reflected on last season, what did you like about what you were able to do? What are some things you feel like you can do even better?
I feel like we did a okay job in the run game. Towards the end of the year, played through a couple injuries, and that kind of, had a dip in the run game production towards the end of the season. And that's just an area where I just, want to make sure I can finish strong, being healthy throughout the season, and, we can be the best that we can be.
Seems like that gives them some concern about you, the wear and tear in the long run. Is that cool with you, or do you maybe feel like you have something to prove in terms of your durability over the course of 17 years?
No, I'm good. I think it's pretty much understood the type of guy I am, how physical I am on and off the field, and being able to play through things. So, I'm good with however we go. Just trying to make sure we can win these games.
Surprised team didn't get a primetime game, and what's kind of been the conversation in the locker room about that?
I hadn't talked about that at all.
Tony, they're going to be voting later today on players getting a chance to compete in the Olympics. Being a football player, is that something that ever crossed your mind? And being a running back, playing flag football in the Olympics, is that something that once it's approved, would you be interested in trying?
That sounds fun. Flag football? It's a possibility. It sounds pretty fun.
Would you do it for free?
That's tough.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yep.
That's Tony Pollard, Titans running back, meeting with the media. Good question by Teresa. I am fascinated, maybe more so than others. I want to hear as many NFL players as possible that would be a candidate to be selected to represent the U.S. in flag football at the Olympics. I want to hear as many of those players asked about it as possible. Tony Pollard sounded like he had no idea what she was talking about. Like, flag football? Okay, yeah, that sounds fun. He sounded mystified. But would you do it for free? Nah, that's tough. So I get where he's coming from. As we await, I don't know if maybe Dan Moore Jr. will be the next Titans player up.
It'll probably be an hour and a half from now. They're changing everything over there. They said 11:15 starts. You can go ahead and guarantee it'll be 12:45 when it gets kicked off.
A little behind today. Man, the amount of emphasis that we're hearing on leadership with this team, the way that they are restructuring everything from how the locker rooms are set up. You heard Tony Pollard there. It's no longer by position. He's next to L'Jarius Sneed and Keandre Coburn, is what he said. Getting players together. He talked about getting to know his teammates off the field. The Titans, by the way, if you missed Brian Callahan earlier, they're split up into 8 teams in this portion of the offseason program, trying to get different players in different positions together and get acclimated. We'll talk more about that and just kind of what it means as they try this turnaround in year 2 of Brian Callahan's era. But here's Dan Moore Jr., the new Titans left tackle.
Rules, what that looked like until the first day of free agency hit. Kind of had a good conversation with Bill and just the trajectory of the offensive line and where he wants to go, where the guys are headed. And I'm familiar with a few of the guys that are in the room before I signed here. So, yeah, man, it all happened pretty quick, but it just felt right. It felt right, and I feel like I landed right where I was supposed to be.
A lot of guys last year in their first year with Bill, they were mostly younger guys, and there was a big adjustment period to his style. You coming in as a veteran, do you expect more to hit the ground running with his stuff? How used to him are you already, and how quick do you imagine it'll be with him?
Yeah, there's a learning curve with everything. I mean, terminology, technique. I'm still learning as it is. We got rookies coming in. I'm helping them, but like I said, I'm still learning as I go. Obviously, I'm not new to the craft, being years in the league, but just new to the system and new to Bill and his style of play. So he's coaching me up, and I feel like he's doing a great job.
But by opening day, you feel like you should be well versed in it and ready to go.
I would like to say so. I better be.
Looked like some of the numbers last year in terms of pass pro were a little bit tough. What was your kind of eval of your season, and do you feel like that's something that needs to be better going into 2025?
Yeah, I'm always looking to get better, regardless of what the numbers say. I thought I played well last season. The Titans thought I played well last season. And that's what I'm focused on, getting better. And like I said, Bill's coaching me up on things that I need to work on, things that I can tweak in my game, and that's all I'm looking forward to is the future.
How much was the selling point of Bill Callahan part of what attracted you here? I mean, do you feel like he can unlock your potential to reach even a higher level here within this offense?
I do. Just looking at some guys that he's worked with in the past. Looking at guys that he's progressed, offensive lines that he's had a grasp of. I do. And like I said, we had a good lengthy conversation, and just what he's looking for me, and helping some of these younger guys come along in their roles and their careers as well. So I feel like it's more of a beneficial or mutual relationship, shall I say. me wanting to come here and help some guys out, progress in their careers, and Bill doing the same for me.
Can you explain for us the disconnect between the numbers that he was alluding to and you saying that you and the Titans felt like he played well? Just what did you see that maybe the numbers we have available to us don't reflect?
Yeah, I mean, the film that I looked at, I mean, numbers, games, I mean, it says how I gave up however many sacks, but, I mean, you look at technique, you look at the film, I'm in front of defenders, and that's what I'm focused on doing.
How much you want to kind of be a tone setter on this team? How do you go about kind of establish yourself in first year here?
I want it to happen organically and naturally. Right now, I don't know what that looks like. I'm still figuring out my role with this team and establishing myself as a leader. I know that it'll happen eventually, but like I said, I want to get to know the guys and really just learn how they function. You know, that's part of being a leader as well, is actually learning the person across from you, learning the people that you lead. That way you know how to lead them.
And then you mentioned, I guess, knowing JC, Peter before. What's it been like kind of being on the field with them now and getting to know them better?
Yeah, they're great guys, man. Great guys. So young, great football players, but still just kids at heart. And they have so much left in the tank. And I'm just really excited to be around them and help them progress.
Something along the lines of your teachability, you know, especially in this offseason program being a benefit to you. Just is that something you and maybe Bill or Brian have talked a lot about? Just the fact that you can be a student of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can. You can always learn. No matter how long you've been in this business, you're always learning something every day. Bill asks us at the end of each meeting, "What'd you learn today?" For me, it may be the most simple things. You know, he talked about coverages and stuff like that in fronts on the first day, and I learned something that day. So like I said, you're always working to perfect your craft, and I think that Bill has emphasized different things here than what I have had in the past.
You mentioned knowing J.C. Latham. If you could look back to what you did, the changes from your rookie year to year two, that off season, what are some of the things that you would tell J.C. that he needs to do or would help him?
Yeah, some of the biggest things about just being thrown in the fire early is keeping your confidence and not letting those bumps in the road get to you. I feel like the key to offensive line play is half of it is mental, or probably more than half of it is mental. And then the other part is being a professional. Obviously showing up on time, stuff like that, that's required. But the little things like how you take care of your body, how you work in the off seasons, how you eat, how you sleep, and what that looks like. You know, people talk about being a professional and taking care of yourself, but what that actually looks like, you know what I mean? So having him with me and, you know, trying to show him some things that maybe he doesn't already do. He does a lot, actually. I feel like he's well versed for how young he is in the league. But I do think I have some things to offer.
What do you think the body change that he's undergone?
Bro, he looks amazing right now. Yeah, he looks amazing. I mean, he looked good when I was with him in Dallas, but I guess I didn't realize how much of an emphasis it was for him last year. But he looks fantastic right now.
Think of this 8-team competition that's going on, and is it different than anything you've done before?
I think it's a good way for guys to learn each other, especially mix and be cohesive within different position groups and stuff like that. Not having offensive linemen specifically hanging with offensive linemen, you know what I mean? Being able to interact with other positions, even on the defensive side of the ball, and being able to compete together. I think that's the biggest thing that I've gotten from it, honestly.
And the position you play, the contract you signed, and the fact you're protecting a #1 overall draft pick, all that, are there some pretty significant expectations, I guess, in that way for you?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to say my expectations are higher than what anybody else has for me. And, you know, whoever is back there, whether it's Cam or whether it's not, you know, I'm going to still do my job regardless.
What have been your early impressions of Cam and maybe how he's handled coming in being kind of the #1 pick?
Yeah, I mean, one of the hardest things for a quarterback, I feel like, alone is just being able to get a grasp of the huddle, be able to fluidly say the play and remember the play, and just have a sense of direction and command of the huddle as well. And I feel like he has that. I feel like whenever he's talking, he has a sense of confidence that guys can feel. And I sense that, we'll be able to feed off of energy from him.
I know it's a long way away, and games are probably the last thing on your mind, but the fact that you're opening with Denver, the team that led the league in sacks last year, how much of your group having to be on point right out of the chute?
Yeah, I mean, every week's going to be a challenge, right? It's the NFL. Obviously, Denver's got a really good group, and then playing in their environment, obviously, it's going to be tough. But we got a good offensive line, and I think we can be a really special group. Like you said, we got to tighten down on some things, and we know that. But I feel the emphasis in the room. I feel the emphasis within the unit of the offense, and I'm just looking forward to it.
What you were saying about Cam a second ago, Callie talked about his preparation being the key for his leadership. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't see much of that. Just I haven't been around him enough yet. I'm just specifically talking about when he's directing the huddle, speaking to us. And
his preparation allows him to have a command of calling
his preparation, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not really familiar. I haven't been around him long enough. Yes, sir.
The way they have the locker set up is it's different from how it was last year. Obviously, you weren't here, but from what you've seen before in your time in the league, have you seen that same setup before?
Yeah. I mean, in Pittsburgh, guys were fairly mixed up. I came in during 2020, so it was still kind of the lasting bit of COVID. So just for the simple fact of not having a whole position group wiped out, they kind of mixed the locker room up a little bit. So I guess you could say I'm a little familiar with it. I don't know how much it's affected, but I do feel like the team aspect and the competition aspect of it all is putting emphasis on it.
What do you think of the 4-H's process to get you to know your neighbor very quickly?
Talking about going back to that leadership, I think it's a huge component of it. Being vulnerable and allowing guys to know you and, figure out who you are as a person. And then you also being able to listen to other people. And it gives you a sense of direction of, where they come from, how they take coaching, how they handle things.
How would you describe your own playing style, Dan? What are your kind of strengths that you hope to sort of bring to the table here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously an athletic guy, so I want to bring athleticism to this offensive line. I want to try to bring energy. We got a lot of young guys, and just to instill some confidence and swag in this unit.
What do you see as the primary responsibility of a left tackle?
I'm sorry.
What do you see as the primary responsibility of
That is Titans left tackle Dan Moore Jr. meeting with the media during the offseason program a week before OTAs. Okay, a lot to unpack there, and a pretty common thread among Titans players that have spoken and Brian Callahan in the leadership void that this team had last year that they're trying to fill. We'll talk about that and what it means in relation to Cam Ward. Coming up next, Hour 3 on the way on 104.5 The Zone.
What's going on? 12:02. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Two big extensions in the NFL yesterday and this morning. First, the 49ers signing linebacker Fred Warner to a new deal, 3 years, $63 million contract extension that includes over $56 million in guaranteed money, making him the NFL's highest-paid linebacker. And it marks the second time in his 7-year career that Warner has landed a contract that makes him the league's highest-paid linebacker. Then this morning, Bears guard Joe Thuney signing a 2-year extension worth $35 million with Chicago. If Thuney plays out the rest of his current deal, he would have made more money than any guard in NFL history. Western Conference Finals getting started tonight between the Thunder and the Timberwolves. Tip-off is at 7:30. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So the 2024 Tennessee Titans were a team that obviously lacked wins. 3-14, number 1 overall pick. Cam Moore, the new quarterback. We know all this. But after hearing from Brian Callahan and Tony Pollard and Dan Moore Jr. and Cody Barton is currently speaking, Van Jefferson is set to speak as well. Maybe we catch a portion of that later on in the segment. But after hearing from who we heard from today, it's clear that the Titans were a team in 2024 that greatly lacked leadership, that lacked a cohesiveness across the board, offense, defense, special teams, that is necessary to win in the NFL. And this is not a guessing game. This is straight up taking what Brian Callahan and select Titans players have told us throughout the course of the day in their media availability from phase 2 of the offseason program before OTA. So let's unpack some of that. And how can Cam Ward change that as he steps onto the facility at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park? You heard Dan Moore Jr. there talking about the command that Cam Ward has of a huddle immediately sticking out. The Titans, what they're doing right now, they've split up the entire football team into 8 teams. Different players, various positions into 8 teams, as Brian Callahan's just trying to get guys to know each other better. The emphasis on team building, as basic as that might sound, right? The things that you were doing at summer camp. Did you have a favorite team building game or exercise?
Ooh, no, I hated icebreakers, though. Did you have college orientation where they'd sit you in a room with a bunch of other freshmen or what have you, and they'd be like, all right, tell us where you're from. Tell us, what's your favorite food? I hate those. I hate them so much.
So the Titans version of that, if we're to listen to Tony Pollard, is the 4 H's. History, heroes, hopes, heartbreaks. So, look, players seem to be enjoying this, and Brian Callahan talked a little bit in his season wrap-up press conference about kind of what he learned about himself and what he wants to improve on as a head coach, and he talked about spending more time with the defense, splitting his time up a little more evenly across the board. So that's obviously a big emphasis today. It's kind of the headline of what we're hearing from Brian Callahan and Titans players. Now, I think there's a key difference here. The Titans, I don't think, had a toxic locker room last year, but you can avoid having a toxic situation in your locker room and still lack leadership or lack the leadership necessary to pull a team together, right? Again, like we talked about with the Xavier Restrepo thing, we don't have to go to extremes. With Xavier Restrepo, we don't have to go to the extreme that because of his background at Miami and with Cam Ward, that he's going to come in here as a UDFA, that he's a lock to make this roster, that he's going to lead this team in receiving yards. We also don't have to go all the way to the other side, that he's just another UDFA and that it means nothing that he's the all-time leading receiver at Miami and that he's just another Bryce Oliver or whoever you want to throw into that discussion. We don't have to go to extremes and say that because the Titans lacked leadership last year that they had a toxic locker room, because I don't think that's the case. I think if you have a legitimately toxic locker room, Robert, everybody knows. It's evident. It's obvious. It leaks out onto performance. Let me say not performance, because performance certainly was an issue last year. It leaks out in terms of effort on what you see players give on the field, and it's hard to hide that stuff. Like, what comes to mind for you if I'm to bring up a toxic locker room situation in the NFL? in recent memory? Is there anything?
For me, I think it would be the most recent would be Cam Hayward commenting on George Pickens being traded, saying, I think we can be a better team without him.
Yeah.
Like, that, I wouldn't say that's a toxic locker room because I respect Mike Tomlin too much, and I think his pimp hand is heavy, that no one's going to come up stirring stuff around in that locker room. But I do think people could be distractions or headaches. And when Cam Hayward, who is a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, had been a leader on the Steelers for this long, comes out and says something that bold about him, there was something up with that situation. Yeah. And that's a locker room that self-polices, right? So we probably didn't hear all of the things that were going on because they self-police so well. But if you're a younger team with a lack of veteran leadership, it'll start leaking out of the holes.
I think of the Josh McDaniel locker room, or Josh McDaniels locker room. I always do that. I call Josh McDaniels Josh McDaniel, and I call Mike McDaniel Mike McDaniels. Anyway, but his locker room in Vegas, toxic. They couldn't wait to get him out of there. It was evident with Antonio Pierce coming in and the lift that we saw. So much so that players were standing on the table for Antonio Pierce to get the job, which is a one and done, and now Pete Carroll is down there. But I think of that. I think of Nathaniel Hackett's Denver Broncos with players yelling at each other on the sideline, the Russell Wilson situation. That's toxic. I don't think what the Titans had was toxic. And it's put well by Russell here in the F&M Bank chat where you can jump in, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. He said it wasn't toxic last year, but it was maybe lifeless or directionless. And I think that sums it up pretty well. This was Brian Callahan this morning when talking about exactly that, what the Titans are trying to manufacture in terms of the leadership on this team that maybe they didn't have last year.
It's something that we've really put a lot of work into. What I mean by that is it's an emphasis for us as well. Just like we emphasize trying to eliminate those negative plays and our execution, there is a leadership emphasis. And part of the reason I did what I did with our dividing our team up into teams is now they're all accountable to each other on that team. There's a leadership that starts to grow because now each team has a captain and an alternate, and now you've got more people in leadership spots. One of the things I think is unique about the process is it allows those guys to start to find their own voices, and it's not about an offense versus defense. It's much more of a holistic team approach to it. We encourage these guys to spend a lot more time together, both in the building and out of it. It's been a focus for us, and I think you can develop leadership. I don't think leaders are necessarily just walk into a room ready to lead. I think there's skills you have to learn. You have to have the communication as a leader. You have to know your teammates. We spend a lot more time trying to get to know each other on a level that I think is going to be beneficial to fostering more leadership for more people. One of the things I tell our team all the time that I think is really important is a lot of times you ask people, how do you lead? And most people say, I lead by example. And my retort to that is there's really no such thing in pro sports. Leading by example is the expectation. That's your job, to be on time, to do what you're supposed to do, to work hard, to study. That's part of that's in your contract, And so my challenge to our team this year was to do more of the things that require bringing people with you, making other people better. And so leadership is something that we talk a lot about. It's a focal point of our off season, and the idea is that you develop a team full of leaders, and everyone has different styles. But it's something that I think the more people you have that are comfortable in those roles and understand that it's more about how you interact with people and how you make people around you better, that part of it I think is something I'm excited about. So,
and leadership comes naturally to the Titans' new quarterback, I would say. This was Josh Pate on this show a few weeks ago at this point. And you may have heard this already, and we posted the video that you can still go back and watch on 104.5 The Zone's YouTube page. Subscribe while you're there. Talking about the first time he saw Cam Ward interacting with teammates on campus at Miami, literally 2 days after arriving at Miami as a transfer from Washington State. This was Josh Pate.
Yeah, so you ever seen the movie Moneyball?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and when the scouts are sitting around and they're talking about a guy and they describe him and they say he's the kind of guy where when he walks in, his blank has already been there for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, that's Cam Ward when he walks in. Okay, so I'm down there. He's been on campus, I want to say 48 hours at the point I'm down there. And I'm watching him coach his team. It's player-led workouts. Coaches aren't even out there because he wasn't in spring. He wasn't there for spring. So he is, I don't know how to describe this other than to say if you were watching a general command troops, that's what it was like watching him. It was like watching a big brother and a bunch of little brothers, and the way that you would talk to a family member who is the little version of you, that's how but he's talking to linemen like that. He's talking to everyone on the team like that. And I'm looking at it and I'm just talking with a couple of guys administratively, and I'm saying, what is happening? And they said, that's just what he was like the moment he walked in. And so I sat there, I watched the whole workout. And you would have thought the guy was a fourth-year starter and knew everyone, because there's a way that you have to earn the right to talk to somebody. Like you and I can joke around in a way that if a production assistant's walking down the hall, he would never be able to talk to you. Well, it was that times 100 with Cam Ward. And so he's like Xavier Restrepo, All-American receiver. He's been there for him for a long time. Not only is he getting dog cussed by Cam Ward, it's almost a yes, sir, no, sir response to him. And he's been there for 48 hours. So I just watched that in awe. Because the thing about it is he has not produced for them yet. He hadn't played a down for him yet.
That's Josh Pate talking about Cam Ward and the impact he instantly made at Miami. That's obviously what the Titans need here, as they're trying a cultural reset with the same coach, right? The coach is trying to pull the strings on, okay, something clearly wasn't right with that leadership void that we had in 2024. Can Cam Ward come in and fill that void in a way that's organic, that's natural for Cam Ward? Because I acknowledge, and we talked about it the day after we had Josh on this subject, it's different. It's different when you're Cam Ward and you're arriving at Miami and it's your third college program and everybody surrounding you is your age or younger, and you've been there and done it. You've been one of the better, you've been an accomplished quarterback in college football now for multiple years. Like, you have that equity built up. Now you're in the NFL, and if you're Cam Ward walking into a franchise like the Steelers, which Robert, like it said, usually is a locker room that governs itself pretty well, one of the best overall cultures in the NFL, then maybe you have to, I don't know if scale it back is the right word, but it's just different, right? You're dealing with players that are used to success, that have a certain standard of success. But the Titans have had such a void of leadership that it makes me think Cam Ward can really just come in and grab this team by the reins, and that the Titans will very gladly let him do it. Benjamin Buck on the F&M Bank chat says, does this mean Big Jeff is not is not really invested? He's the default leader, I thought. Titans don't need a default leader. The Titans need someone like Cam Ward to come in and just grab the bull by the horns as they try to turn this thing around. I just think it's interesting how much emphasis has been placed on that from Brian Callahan today and from different Titans players. And it's obviously a pretty big focal point for this team. Last year, the Titans tried to put Will Levis into that position that he clearly wasn't ready for. Big Jeff maybe was the default leader to Brian Callahan and the Titans last year. Whatever they did, it wasn't enough. Obviously, it wasn't enough. And it can't just be Cam Ward, but he can spearhead it, and this team is in pretty desperate need of that. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Zach Lyons of Cover 2 will join us and kind of unpack some of what we've heard from Titans coaches and players today. Talk about the rest of the offseason as well. That's next on 1045 The Zone. Welcome back. We've heard from Brian Callahan, multiple Titans players, in phase 2 of the offseason program. We are, of course, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. It was a pleasure to eat some of the leftovers from the lunch Hattie B's brought us yesterday. Zach Lyons is in studio with us. He did not accept any of my Hattie B's damn hot chicken offer today.
Well, I looked at what you offered. It was literally just a crumb and some lettuce.
There was very little.
Yeah, I mean, it was like there was nothing in there.
Zach Lyons is in studio with us. You can hear him from 1 to 3 with Blaine Bishop on cover 2. Zach, your favorite team building game in summer camp growing up, whether it was a sports camp or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 2 truths and a lie. Ooh. It was a good one. But also, we did this thing in college where we had orientation, but we also at the University of Memphis had like a student-led, student-driven like summer camp out in Centerville. And it's called Frosh Camp. And we did this thing where you give every cabin 3 or 4 pieces of large cardboard and duct tape, and you have to build a boat. And you guys actually have to get out on the boat and go across this big, long creek out there at the camp. And that was the funnest because that shows you all this ingenuity. There's many different ways to build a boat, and you let the freshmen do it. It's really cool.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, everybody's got life jackets. Okay. And I'm also at the point where, like, I find it I'm highly embarrassed for people that don't know how to swim once they enter in college.
Like Buck.
And I know there's several people in this station, and I'm embarrassed for all of them.
Who can't swim? Say their name.
Well, I'm pretty sure, am I wrong in thinking that Ramon doesn't swim? Didn't I hear that when I first got here, something about Buck not swimming, that I think Ramon?
Buck definitely can't swim.
I think there's only 2 shows that have a full thing of swimmers. And I think it's 3HL and cover 2.
Dang, I hate that he's pulling us down like that.
Yeah, no, it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got to really get him out there. I mean, it's hilarious that he has to jump in with floaties on his arms, but it's also highly embarrassing.
Yeah, so much for starting that water polo team. He seemed like he was so down.
Well, that's why he won't go to Nashville Shores with us.
There is no water that you could drown in at Nashville Shores. What he is worried about is the potential sticky fingers, hypodermic needles, anything like that would be at Nashville Shores.
Which is a very fair concern. Okay, so 2 truths and a lie. Your favorite, just growing up as a kid, team building activity. So sounds like that's basically what the Titans are doing this offseason. I mean, it's the 4 H's, according to Tony Pollard, teammates getting together and talking about... Let's see. I just wrote it down here. History heroes, hopes, and heartbreaks. They're rearranging lockers so players that are not of the same position can be next to each other and get to know each other off the field a little bit better. They've split the team up into 8 different teams. I mean, Zach, it sounds like priority 1A was go get a quarterback.
Yep.
Priority 1B was fix the culture in this locker room and find some leadership in 2025.
Yeah, that's been everything, right? I mean, they're even sacrificing, I believe, the skill of some players to go for leadership. They've turned down other players, let players go. There's players that are not going to be making the team that showed a lack of leadership. And I thought that Brian Callahan's answer about lead by example, where he's basically just throwing that in the trash, like you're supposed to lead by example. That's almost a contractual obligation in sports. You're not going to get anywhere without lead by example. And I feel that some of the players that the Tennessee Titans have drafted have signed over the years. I mean, not just what Ran Carthon did last year, but not just what John Robinson, even general managers before, they've really sacrifice that. But I think it's even more important in the NIL world now. You hear of so many teams that have taken players off their boards because they don't love, for NFL purposes, it's Monday through Saturday. They only love Sunday. They only love playing the games because that's what leads to the paychecks and stuff. And so there are hundreds of players coming off these boards for these teams because you don't love football. Not loving football has become such a big hindrance, and the NIL's kind of exasperating that as well.
Does it feel like that's even more of an emphasis? Like, because it has me looking back at the draft class and some of the qualities with the guys that they brought in and sort of aligning with what we're hearing Brian Callahan talk about. Like his quote about leading by example. Like, that doesn't exist in professional sports. Leading by example is doing the right things, right?
Right.
Not preaching or telling people to do the right things, but just doing them and people just falling in line. But that's the baseline. That's the bare minimum, is to lead, quote unquote, by example.
Right.
I kind of liked what he said about that. And it's got me kind of looking back at some of the qualities, off the field with these guys, leaders on the teams that they were coming from, the football character, just the character in general, and sort of matching that stuff up with what their offseason priorities were all year. And it's no coincidence that Cam Ward probably exemplifies that better than anybody they drafted.
Yeah, it's definitely. I may have not liked some of the picks in terms of value for this draft class, and maybe I don't like some of the free agents. I'm not as high on them as other people, but I can say everything they have said in the offseason, whether it's Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan, or Mike Bergonzi, it has led to all these decisions. You can find the common thread. Like, you can see the philosophy, you can see the reasoning, and the reasoning is that they needed to do a whole overhaul of this locker room. They needed to do a whole overhaul on the foundation, on the culture, because what they were trying to do last year with the pieces that they had didn't work. And I think one of the best things you could do as a leader is admit when something's not working and learn when to pivot and what to change. And if you can't do that, then you're just going to continue to get bad results, I don't want to say culture or anything, but bad leadership. You're not going to have enough leadership because you don't recognize your own mistakes and your own limitations. And I think that what you have is they used the word collecting talent last year when they referred to last year's free agency class. And it was totally the opposite of what some of the more successful teams do. Obviously, the Commanders at the forefront of your mind when you're talking about that. But look at all the teams that have gone through rebuilds and what they've even been able to do. You go back to the Texans. They've been able to bring in a bunch of leadership and the right players at the right price. And so I think that's what they've been trying to do. And again, you don't have to agree with everything. But at the end of the day, you should feel very comfortable knowing that the plan that they have, they actually acted on it and carried it through. Now, the players have to go out there and win games, and the coaches have to coach them and get them prepared for those games. But everything that they have done is a part of a big cohesive theme, and to me, that unifying theme is leadership. And that is going to lead to sustained success instead of these one-offs or these just couple of years of success.
Yeah, well, that's the hope, right? And that's what Brian Callahan needs in 2025. And naturally, expectations recalibrate after the draft, after free agency. And they've recalibrated to the tune of, if we're to look at win totals in Vegas, 5.5 wins for 2025. Just your school of thought over the course of the last 2 months, sitting back and watching the Titans try and build up the starting five on the offensive line, add their franchise quarterback, all the picks they made in the draft, what we're hearing now about this reset from a leadership standpoint. How does it have you kind of gauging baseline expectation, and not even just from a win-loss perspective, but walking that line of evaluating what they're doing with the wins and losses almost not even being the end-all, be-all, right? Because winning 6 to 7 games and finding other ways to do it with Cam Ward having a lot of struggles as a rookie quarterback feels different than winning 5 to 6 games with Cam Ward showing a ton of promise and being an offensive rookie of the year candidate, right? Like, those things probably go hand in hand, but the path which they go about winning games this year feels very, very important, even if they end up with another year of 5 wins where the losses far outweigh the victories. Like, we could still end up feeling very different. Like, I know people hate to say moral victories and they don't exist, but they do, right? Like,
listen, this team just needs any kind of victory.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't care if it's moral or not. They sucked last year. Well, it was the worst product I've ever seen for a long time. It wasn't even exciting or even hilariously bad. Like, we couldn't even laugh at them. I was just laughing to keep myself from crying at certain points last year because they were terrible.
Well, we love to pretend moral victories don't exist in the NFL. Like, no. A win's a win, a loss a loss. But 6-10 with Cam Ward, offensive rookie of the year candidate, offensive line gelling along the way, and the roster deficiencies being what leads to those 10 losses, or 6-11, you know what I mean. that by definition would be a moral victory season for the Titans. So how are you calibrating expectations for this year with all of that in mind?
It's all about Cam Ward. I mean, it's not really all about Cam Ward because you want to see consistency from the defense and the offense. But basically, I'm just looking at to be not as bad as last year. I expect this team to get over 5.5 wins. I'm going to place that bet myself. I cannot encourage anybody else to take that bet. I'm not responsible for your money and your decisions, but I'm taking the over because I'm on the flip side going to parlay that with taking the under on the 8.5 the Patriots have. Over or under 8.5 wins. What are we doing here, Vegas?
That's crazy.
It's insane. And I look at it and I go, it's all about Cam Ward, but it's all about finding that consistency at every level of every unit. The special teams can't have disasters. The defense just has to never let the dam break because they did that at crucial moments last year. And the offense has to be better. The offensive line has to be better. The quarterback play has to be better. The play sequencing, the play calling. But it really all comes down to Cam Ward because Cam Ward is going to be able to handle all of that basically on his shoulders. Like, what is his progression from week 1 to week 3, from week 3 to week 5? And every couple of weeks, we need to be seeing him get better. If he is not getting better and the offense looks the same as last year, utter failure. Doesn't matter. I don't care if they win 8 games. I'd be fine firing Brian Callahan. That's where I'm at because it's not just about the wins. Because we know that there are times where a team can look good in the win-loss column, but they're actually really terrible. You go back and look at the Mike Vrabel 2022 season where they opened up with the Giants and they started out 7-5 before firing John Robinson. They were terrible that year. They were the benefit of an easy schedule. So you need to have the product on the field looking good, and that starts with Cam Ward's development.
Zach Lyons in studio with us. You can hear him coming up from 1 to 3 alongside Blaine Bishop on Cover 2. In terms of what he's surrounded by right now, the weaponry around Cam Ward, I am kind of the mindset of I'm okay with this base of veterans and Calvin Ridley coming off a 1,000-yard season, Tyler Lockett in the slot, whatever you get out of Van Jefferson, and Jameer Dike and Alec Iomanner kind of having to grow up a little bit within this offense. And that being enough to get Cam Ward by, being enough to give us a measuring stick for Cam Ward this year. Do you feel the same way, or would you like to see more? And that's Gunnar Helm on top of that, by the way. Or would you like to see more added to that wide receiver room around the quarterback?
No, this is plenty. I mean, it's going to be a point guard style of offense where he's going to be spreading the ball around. I mean, obviously, you're going to look at you're going to look at Calvin Ridley first, then you're going to go to your second read if he's covered up. That's kind of what they did with Sam Darnold last year. Kevin O'Connell's like, every pass play, look at Justin Jefferson. If he's covered up, go to your next option. So it's going to be kind of a situation like that where they're going to be just spreading the ball out. You go and look at what Jaden Daniels had last year. Terry McLaurin, that's it.
Yeah, stop talking.
Diami Brown, Alamed, Zacchaeus, Noah Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Jamison Crowder, Byron Pringle. His tight end was Zach Ertz, was good, but he's also old. Then it's John Bates, Ben Sinnott, and Colson Yankoff. Colson Yankoff. Can you even say that? Can you even say that on the radio?
Dump it.
I mean, like, that's who was on the team, but they built it from the offense. They built it off the run game. That's what these guys are going to do. And Jaden Daniels spread it around. And I want a quarterback that can be able to spread it around that's not over-reliant on one pass catcher. You still need to keep Calvin Ridley involved because he's clearly your best wide receiver. But what they're going to do with Chimere DK, Gunnar Helm, Chigakonkwo, Alec Iomanner, Bryce Oliver. I mean, there are guys on Tyler Lockett. There are guys on this team that can contribute and make this team. Listen, this team has been averaging 17 to 18 points per game since I feel like I've been alive at this point. It's been so long since they've not averaged that. You get them to 22 points per game. That's about league average. That's a good thing. And you don't need 13,000 star pass catchers to be able to do that.
We understand Titans will be scouring the waiver wire throughout the course of the offseason. They'll have first pick in that regard. But is there anybody on Zach Lyons' wish list that's still out there for the Titans to bring in for training camp, to bring in to help this team at any roster hole?
Zadarius Smith. I mean, I've been wanting Zadarius Smith since he first became a free agent before he signed with Green Bay. Bring me Zadarius Smith. I mean, he needs to be here. He's also a locker room culture fit. He's a fit at a position of need. That's who I would go. I would die on that hill for some Zadarius Smith. I was hoping they'd already signed him by now. I understand the logistics of why they haven't, because, I mean, at this point, you're probably not competing. He's probably asking for a lot, and he probably wants to go somewhere to compete. But I would be all about some Zadarius Smith.
You don't want Clowney coming in here to fill that leadership void?
Good. I'm good on Clowney. And I have nothing against Clowney. I'm just good. I'm nonplussed about Jadeveon Clowney.
You didn't have any extreme reaction to it when you saw that he was cut by the Carolina Panthers?
No, he's like, I'm going to take it or leave it guy with Jadeveon Clowney.
The off-ball linebacker spot is one we were talking about yesterday. With Cody Barton, I mean, being the guy at this point, who is even the favorite to start next to him in your mind as we continue, keeping it on that front seven?
The way that Brian Callahan talked at the owners' meeting down in West Palm Beach, it's Cedric Gray is the lead dog opposite him. But I have seen, I mean, it's hard to ignore that they've been bringing in all these linebackers off waiver. And then the ESPN had what's his name? Is Matt Bowen, I think his name was, put out Kaiser White needs to be opposite of Cody Barton and all this stuff. And I'm just like, nah, I'm just here. Just let's let the young guys go. I like Cedric Gray, I like Otis Reese, and maybe he's the favorite, but the way that Brian Callahan talked about is like he specifically said we need Cedric Gray to step up this year. So the onus is on him. It's his job to lose in my mind. I like what James Williams provides, and I like David Bendo too, the undrafted free agent out of Texas. The problem is I don't know what any of these guys do in coverage. And we already know that that's a negative for Cody Barton. So I got to see someone needs to emerge as a guy that can cover tight ends when called upon.
Otis Reese, former defensive back. I mean, he's going to have
James Williams too.
Every
should be able to do
earn that spot. Yeah, I mean, Anthony Orji probably can't be. It's just so wide open at that spot at the moment. So
all right, you guys got to clean it up. One segment talking about Yankoff and Orji. I can't deal with it.
It has been a filthy segment with Zach Lyons, as it usually is. What do you guys have today on Cover 2?
We got Coach Mack, weekly Mack Attack. We're going to talk the, oh my gosh, I just blanked on what we're, do's and don'ts, rookie advice for the first annual Cover 2 Rookie Symposium. Just real quick, the Spelling Bee picture that keeps popping up with you being Spelling Bee champion and everything. That looks like a guy that probably called his dad Papa. Is that true? Papa.
Oh, it's probably not far off. No.
Yeah.
Hey, but in my defense, in Italian, that is exactly what you call your
That's
dad
what I'm saying.
over there.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not totally off. But Spelling Bee champ, we've talked about this a lot. Buck has a hard time accepting this, but
I mean, it's a literal fact.
It is. It's
spelled
an
literal,
unquestioned
right?
fact.
Can you spell literal right now?
Literal. Zach Lyons coming up from 1 to 3. No, Literal. Literal.
Boom.
We good?
That's the Spelling Bee champion right there.
1 to 3 p.m. with Blaine Bishop on Cover 2. Catch him every weekday after us. Zach, thanks, man. Go argue with some people in the F&M Bank
Let's
chat
do it.
before the show. All right, we're going to wrap up the show. 615-737-1045. Last call for phone calls. We'll do some polls coming up next. Summer is almost here, but the sun is already shining. Maybe not today, but most days. And the spot that you need to go to enjoy that sunshine is Fog Street Lawn Club. It is Nashville's premier soccer pub, your go-to spot to watch Nashville SC games. Boys and Gold are in Orlando tomorrow night. Go watch it with your fellow Nashville fans, but it's great for all sports, and it makes sure that you will never get bored. Check out that rooftop. It's the most picture-perfect view of downtown Nashville you can find. You can play British-style lawn bowling or cornhole on that rooftop free with any purchase from their awesome British pub-style menu or large drink selection with happy hour Monday through Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. The concert series coming up at Fog Street Lawn Club. Check out the lineup at fogstreet.com. You can also reserve your lane for lawn bowling while you're there. Tons of space downstairs, bars, TVs everywhere. Go axe throwing at Bad Axe next door. I'm telling you, there is always something to do. It's family-friendly, great for all sports fans. You can even host special events like birthday parties, corporate events, or weddings. Fog Street Lawn Club, the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of Nashville while still enjoying downtown Music City. And we'll see you at Fog Street Lawn Club soon. Let's call for phone calls, 615-737-1045. We are fueled, of course, by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Hope everybody stays safe tonight. Some severe weather, I think, going to roll in. So, as always, we remind you to follow Nash Severe Weather on Twitter, at Nash Severe WX. They will have you updated, making sure you're in the know. As Robert and I plan to be out at Nissan Stadium tonight for the AC/DC show.
So how do you feel about that? Where is your worry meter? Lucas scaredy pants meter. Where are you at for that?
I handle these things probably the way that you shouldn't, where I won't say I pay no attention to severe weather rolling in, but I'm of the mindset of I have so many different facilities to make sure that if something really bad is happening, I'm going to know and I'll adjust from there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever
in the eye of the storm. I'll adjust.
I don't know. I mean, we had severe weather coming down on Friday, right? And you were with me, and we were showing my cousin in from Italy a good time. My dad was here. We were downtown. Oh, the heavy stuff won't hit until 11:30 or whatever, and then 11:30 comes and goes, and it's like, all right, if something's going on, we'll learn about it and we'll figure it out from there. But I understand that's probably not the best way to deal with that stuff.
I handle it as in, this is going to be difficult for me leaving the house where I could stay here and be warm and dry.
Right.
I might stay here. I don't know. Right now, I would put myself at a 50-50 opportunity. If it is gross and disgusting and I have the opportunity to just lay in my recliner with my cat Winston, I might stay home.
I'm with you. I don't want to go stand in the pouring rain for AC/DC. Love
if it was
AC/DC.
Bridgestone, I'm in there. I'm going no matter what. But the fact that it's at Nissan, I don't know. That's kind of tough.
I have hyped myself up to go see AC/DC.
We
though.
both have.
Yeah.
The other day, listening to Shoot to Thrill, screaming at the top of our lungs. People at other stations coming out and telling us, shut the hell up! We're trying to work!
It's possible that we end up staying home watching conference championship action. That starts tonight. Stanley Cup playoffs, the defending champs, the Florida Panthers at the Carolina Hurricanes, 7 p.m. puck drop, competing directly with the 7:30 tip-off on ESPN between Timberwolves and Thunder, game one of the Western Conference Finals. We'll keep it in the NBA. Do you have a best-case scenario for this wide-open Final Four, essentially, in the NBA of the team that you want to see lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy? Like, who is the team that would be most aesthetically pleasing to you as a non-NBA diehard to end up winning this thing when we're going to have, like we talked about yesterday, somebody winning it for the first time in decades, if not the first time ever in the NBA.
That's tough for me. It just kind of falls on preference. Whose colors do you like the best? Are you a Thunder guy? I don't know. I think I would side with the Knicks. I would side with the Knicks because same thing when the Cubs were up. Unfortunately, even as a Ravens fan, same thing if the Browns ever make it to a Super Bowl. Same thing with the Lions. Like, their fans have been through hell and always support them. They may complain. They may pull a Spike Lee and write a whole novel about why the Knicks are messing up and how they could fix it. But the Knicks fans have stood by them. I need it for Knicks fans. I would love it if the Knicks won, to be honest with you. And I'm not a big Knicks guy.
I'd love it if the Knicks won, too. I think that's my best-case scenario, although I can't wait to watch who, between Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Anthony Edwards, drags their team to the NBA Finals. And that's not to say that the Oklahoma City Thunder are only there because of SGA. They've been a well-rounded team all year long. They're a one seed for a reason. But in terms of the individual matchup, that's one, just watching two players go blow for blow in a conference finals. The Western Conference Finals has my attention in the NBA playoffs this year.
I'm going to be honest. With the MVP conversation, I feel like there is almost like MVP fatigue like we saw in the NFL last year with Jokic. Jokic is far and away. I don't know how anyone could argue that he's not the best player in basketball. He's not the most valuable player. That he is not the most valuable player in basketball. I understand SGA's having an incredible year. A lot of people like to call him a foul merchant. I think that's part of the game. If you want to be upset about that, be upset about the people who started throwing balls in peach baskets. But I don't know how you watch it and you don't think Jokic is just dragging along this team with him. Like, dude scoring 50 points. Like, and this isn't like Boogie with the Kings, like when Boogie would drop 40 and we're like, man, if he was on a good team, he's dragging a team with him. Yeah. So I like the Thunder. I like the way they're built. They built the right way through the draft. They didn't try to sign a bunch of dudes and fill it out. So it'd either be the Knicks or the Thunder for me.
Well, that's what I love so much here as we get down to 4 teams in the NBA. There's not a shred of fatigue associated with any of these teams. None of them. Jokic is out. He's gone. There's no LeBron. There's no Nikola Jokic. There's no Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's no Golden State Warriors. It's the Thunder, the T-Wolves, the Pacers, and the Knicks. And they all want it desperately. All 4 of those fan bases want it so desperately because they either haven't had it ever or haven't had it in a very, very long time, in a lot of cases, in the lifetimes of these fans, especially in the case of, the New York Knicks, who there's plenty of Knicks fans that have never been around to see their team even meaningfully competitive, much less winning an NBA title. So the lack of fatigue in the NBA playoffs with any of these teams is what makes it so intriguing. We're going to get new blood no matter what. Whereas in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Florida Panthers are the defending champs. They're sitting there in the Eastern Conference Finals. Hockey fans have Oilers fatigue, even though they haven't gotten over the hump in this Connor McDavid era. So that's a storyline in and of itself. But that's all picking up tonight and looking forward to watching if we're not at Nissan Stadium rocking out to AC/DC in the rain.
As long as the Pacers don't win. I can't have Buck get any semblance of this has been his team. Yeah. I hate this. He comes out of the woodwork.
Right. I mean, he's from Indiana, but he's not allowed to claim the Pacers suddenly when he's literally never mentioned them not once in 4 years of this show.
If it makes him feel bad, then I'm okay with him losing.
Yeah. Let's do some polls.
The polls brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, most trusted dealership in the South. Would you want the best player on your team to play flag football in the Olympics? Yes, 31%. 68% said no.
So Teresa Walker's been asking the question. Tony Pollard said, oh, yeah, I could do it, but he wouldn't do it for free. I did not hear Van Jefferson's answer, but I'm interested. I want to hear as many NFL players as possible be asked if they would play because I'm legitimately fascinated. We have not gotten an official ruling on what that vote was, by the way, from owners' meetings. I'm fascinated at which players would actually end up getting sent to the Olympics to play flag football.
Who do you consider the better coach, Kyle Shanahan or Nick Sirianni? Kyle Shanahan winning 59% to 40%.
We didn't really talk about this today. We'll get to it tomorrow with Sirianni getting a long-term extension in Philly. I think that's a fascinating conversation between one coach who has not gotten over the Super Bowl hump and one that has, and a very different narrative around the both of them.
How confident are you that the Titans can hit the over on 5.5 wins in 2025? Very confident, somewhat confident, not confident, but maybe. No chance. That we have a tie down to the percentage between somewhat confident and not confident, but maybe. 39.2% of the audience believe that, maybe.
Yeah, that about sums it up right there. Those are the polls?
Those are the polls.
And that's the show. Zach and Blaine got you covered up. Cover 2 from 1 to 3 next on 104.5 The Zone. Back at it tomorrow at 10 o'clock. See y'all.